All right, let's start episode 104. I apologize ahead of time for my voice. I am battling the cold. I've got the congestion. I've got the throat stuff going on. I've got my green tea with pomegranate with just a dab of honey, just a smidge of honey. And so hopefully that'll help me get
Sounds
through.
terrible. I'm sorry.
Uh,
The drink, not your cold.
the drink isn't. The drink
Kind of
isn't.
want you to make one and send one to me, to be honest.
It's actually quite good. You wouldn't think that honey's
Hopefully
good
you
with
do.
the pomegranate tea, but it is good. It is good. Anyway, we'll try to make it through. Dan hopefully will be joining us soon. Derek can't make it tonight, which is too bad because I know that the game we're going to talk about is, I mean, we talk about each other's alleys all the time for some reason. This is right up his alley. This is all up in Derek's alley. So
All up in that alley.
we will do our best to communicate his love for this game, of course, and we'll just give our first impressions of Elden Ring along with a few other games and all that good stuff. But unlike last week we saved Horizon till the very end. I kind of just want to jump right into our Elden Ring thoughts right out of the gate, and then we'll get to the other stuff we're playing. So let's just go right off the bat. This is one of the biggest games, most anticipated games of the year, at least for multi-platform gamers. I mean, you could make the argument that Horizon was more anticipated. That's fair. But across many platforms and a wide variety of gamers, I think this one was highly anticipated. Of course, the reviews it's getting are insane. I think it was 98 for a while. Now it's 97. I mean, now it's bad. It went from good to bad.
Yeah, that's what that means.
Yeah. Well, I think very few games have been like in that like above 96 percentile, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's in like the Grand Theft Auto 5, Breath of the
Ocarina
Wild.
Time.
Yeah, it's in that echelon in terms of Metacritic, if that's important to you. It's fair
Still
if it's
plenty
not.
of time for that to turn around. So.
Yeah. It's funny because you look on Steam and the reviews are actually listed as mixed right now because, of course, the PC, which Jeff and I will talk about a little bit, PC version does have inconsistent levels of quality in terms of just the way it performs, regardless of the rig that you're running. It's just it has some inconsistencies, not bad, just inconsistent at times, and we'll get to that too. But some people really are mad about it.
I think they're mad. I think they're mostly mad about it. Well, because it's the internet, of course, and they love to be mad about everything. But almost every PC port from FromSoftware has been disappointing for PC users at launch. So they're just like, God, again with this, like. So that's where some of the frustration is coming from.
Makes sense.
But
now the other ones, do you know how
they are
fixed them?
overreacting. There's a patch of them that's overreacting.
They fixed them over time, the FromSoft games on PC?
I believe so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I'm playing this on PC. Jeff, were you playing on PC as well?
No, on PS5, but I've seen
PS5,
frame drops or drops in frames and stuff.
Okay.
But it's not like it's just something I see, like, and I don't tend to not notice that stuff, but when you're in performance, what's the equivalent of performance mode where you're in what is it called? Something about frame rate. I tell it to favor frame rate, basically.
Yeah.
And when you're in that mode and you still see frame drops, it's like, it's disappointing.
It is disappointing.
But it's not like it doesn't make the game ugly or something. It's not.
Right.
I'm not a quality snob by any means.
Kyle, you're on PS5 as well.
Yeah, I'm PS5. I'm playing in whatever the not frame rate mode is. Quality mode.
Quality, yeah. That would be like true 4K basically, I think.
And like I am not a frame rate guy, so like I'm not even gonna comment on like if I don't even know if I realize I'm seeing frames drop sometimes. I'm just not that observant, I guess. I don't know, but I will tell you, playing it with HDR and everything like that, hella pop in constantly. Just like, oh, the grass just, this whole area has grass. I've been in this area for like 20 minutes and the grass just popped in. Like, real bad pop in. But that's with all the bells and whistles kind of rolling and everything.
Yeah, and if you
have to turn HDR on, it's not automatically on.
If you use your telescope and zoom in and out, you can really notice the pop in there. As you're traversing the world, you might not notice it as much, but actually, in Horizon, I've seen it a few times too.
Horizon's got it too. Yeah, I mean, this is not
it's an open.
Horizon has
an open world of observation.
Too.
Yeah,
like not even just the environment. Sometimes the colors will pop in, and you'll be like, "Oh, I didn't realize it was supposed to be this bright."
There was one structure in Horizon that I saw from far off, but it loaded up elements of it, like pieces of it first, and I was like, "Why are these things floating?" And as I got closer, the building popped in. I was like, "Uh-oh." Saw that.
Some Minecraft
open worlds, guys.
Saw
what can you do?
So those kind of things happen. I mean, we play so many video games. At least I think we are. It's fair to speak for everybody here. We're gonna let some of that stuff slide in certain types of games, right?
Depends on the ambition of it, yeah.
Stuff like that.
And so that stuff doesn't bother me. It doesn't like all of a sudden I'm like, wait, this wasn't a real world. I'm playing a game. Like it doesn't break the immersion. Like it's, you know what I mean? It's not like that for me. That being said, on the PC version, I've had a number of play sessions where everything went pretty smoothly, and other than a little bit of stuttering here and there, and it doesn't look like frame drops to me. Honestly, it looks like loading issues.
Yeah, that's what I've seen in Fighting Cowboys videos. Or like just like, oh, he's like, oh, sorry about the lag, or it's just
Yeah,
lag when it's
it has a
just doing
lag
things
or
in
load
general.
look to
Yeah,
it, as opposed
yeah.
to frame. And maybe that's the same thing. Maybe that's potato potato. I don't know. I'm not a super tech guy, but I do know that it pauses as almost as if like I entered a new area and it just needs to load it or something. There's something weird that
Hmm.
kind of happens, and then it will
I know what
continue.
you're talking
So
about. Yeah.
it doesn't happen a lot, but I've had a few play sessions where it happened a number of times. Thankfully, it has not happened yet where it's gotten me killed or during a fight or something. It's usually been while I'm traveling around.
Sure.
Not a huge deal. But
On your
overall,
horsey, your jumping horsey.
on the jumping horse, yeah, it actually did happen on the horse. Overall, I do think it's performing fine, and I'm very excited to know that they're going to continue to patch it and improve it.
Mhm.
And I'm also really excited to play this thing on the Steam Deck, which the first emails for that have gone out, which is exciting. People are going to start, like non-reviewers, like normal people are going to start getting their Steam Decks next week in the mail, which is really cool.
Oh
Uh,
wow, cool.
so anyway, this is one of those games that's already been confirmed as Steam Deck ready. So that'll be cool. The game like this on the go is going to look great. And I think it's also, with the smaller screen, it's probably going to, I would hope, perform super well because the resolution is way lower, but I could be wrong. Anyway, I digress. I want to hear what you guys think about this game. Kyle, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on Elden Ring so far? What are the pros, the cons, everything in between?
Yeah, I mean, I've put in quite a bit of time to it at this point. I'm about 11 hours in. I've killed a couple world bosses. I've killed a couple main path bosses, I guess you could call them. Which are automatically makes this further than not the majority, but like there's 2 or 3 Dark Souls games. I think it was literally 2 and maybe 3 that I only got like maybe 10 hours in and like never proceeded beyond like the first area. And I was just like, I get it, I get it.
No,
However,
what's a world boss?
world boss is like in the open
like part of
world.
the
There's
main
just a
story,
boss
right?
there. Yeah.
Wait, so you're saying the world boss is ones you just stumble upon while exploring?
Yeah, you could just be walking around and there could just
That's what I
be a
thought you meant.
giant
Okay.
boss there.
Oh,
yeah.
I
And
see
then,
what you're
and then
saying.
a
Okay.
main path boss, meaning like like a boss you have to fight to like progress the quote unquote story or whatever.
And then for these games, typically the big health bar pops up. That's usually what you look for knowing this is a real boss, not just a big enemy,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Usually the music swells up and there's like
Mhm.
boss music and yeah, you get that
Yeah.
big old boss bar.
Because I thought those giants were bosses. They're not even world. They're
No,
just
no, they're
big
just
enemies,
they're just
They're
big
just
dudes.
trolls
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
and they
mini
are not
bosses.
nice.
I don't know. Yeah,
No.
they're not. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it. I feel a little deceived by the marketing and stuff like that. I feel like they came out and they're like, man, we hired George R. R. Martin. There's gonna be a story. IGN ran some articles and they're like, the story's gonna be really followable. And then other things are just like, oh, we're trying to say, it's Dark Souls, it's a little bit different. It's absolutely just Dark Souls in every way, except you can jump now, I guess.
Which is great. I like the jump. I like
but
the jump.
in every literal single other way, this game is Dark Souls. They maybe changed the names to bonfires to whatever, but like your souls are runes now. It's the freaking same thing, guys.
Yeah.
It's in
It's
an
always
open world
asking
now,
me
which
to
is
like touch the grace, which feels bad. I don't know why. I'm like,
well,
Little-
I was
grace. I'm
Little
like, I
grace,
want to touch.
guys.
we
I
have
want
to
the
talk. I'm gonna get a little gross here, but I was playing with my friend today, and you have to like use fingers to like
Yeah,
get into
a lot
each
of
other's
finger
world.
stuff
So we were
going on, yeah.
fingering each other all day today playing
Yeah.
co-op.
Yeah,
So-
I remember at one point they were like, some character said something to me about not having a finger maiden or something, and I was like,
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah. A
That-
lot of NPCs telling me I'm maidenless. I'm like, how did you know? No. I mean, there's some, saying that it's just Dark Souls is not like a diss or anything like that. I just feel like the marketing was setting this up to be something
I agree.
different, and it's not, and that's okay. That's not. It's an observation. It's not even like a criticism or anything like that.
I think that's fair because From has made non-Dark Soul games, and they are very different. Bloodborne, Sekiro. I mean, they still carry similarities in their difficulty and that kind of stuff. There's lots of similarities, but this feels a lot like the Dark Souls games that I've
This
played.
is Dark Souls 4, and it's an open world game. That's what this is.
Yeah, that's
To
what
me,
it feels like.
and to me, again, an observation, not a criticism.
I was all in on like, let me get into this lore, let me understand what's happening, and even the opening, it's like kind of like an opening slideshow where they're just doing some Ken Burns
It's
effects with the
nonsense.
pictures, and the guy's talking, and I checked out so fast. I was
It's
like, this doesn't
garbly
make
good,
Yeah.
dude. Like it's just absolutely just nonsense, like fantasy jargon or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know we were making notes of George R. R. Martin's like that, and it's like, well, a lot of fantasies like this, but at least like there's like a story that you're following, or some kind of political intrigue or something,
Or maybe each class could have been a character with its own story. Like if you
yeah. Well, and I know like Souls fans are listening right now and being like, this is the wrong game to have this conversation with. Like you're trying to talk narrative on a Dark Souls game.
No, that's because of the marketing. No, that's
exactly. And that was my closing. It's just for real, the marketing, if you were following it, and I maybe maybe I follow marketing too closely. So I start like reading too much into it and stuff like that. But to me, on the level they were showing it to us, I was like, oh, we're going to have some kind of a narrative fantasy open world RPG or whatever. And no, it's just Dark Souls open world. So that being said, I'm having a really fun time like exploring stuff. I think the open world really services I think this game really services being an open world and everything. There's many times where I'm seeing something on the map or I'm seeing something this visually and going like, yeah, I want to go there. And then just on the way there being completely distracted by other things and everything like that. So it's got all those tenets and everything. I like how you're just not overpopulated with a bunch of icons on your map. You're kind of putting your map together. I spent a lot of time in my friend's game today, and we were seeing a lot of stuff in his world. Doesn't unlock things in my world, but I can put markers all over my map to signify, hey, I need to go do all this stuff when I get back. Like
you can mark your map. I haven't even done that. You can mark your map.
Yeah. So like if you jump into my world, Tim, and like I hit a bunch of bonfires and hit a bunch of things that you haven't hit yet that you'll have to hit in your game. You can be marking all that stuff like while you're in my game.
So I'm visiting your game. I can mark up my map while I'm there. I go back to my game. Those markers.
Your map is the same. Yeah,
that's
nice. You're carrying your map. Yeah.
Cool.
So there's.
But the bosses we beat together are not defeated.
Yeah, I mean, you might get the like you can't pick up items that are fixated in the environment. So if I open a chest in my game, you can't open that chest. You can't even share in me opening that chest. But you can mark down, hey, there's a chest here. So when you go back to your game, you can go and do that. So like there is a lot of like what game did we just play recently?
Dying Light.
That was co-op. It's Dying Light, where it's like, yeah, you play in somebody else's world, and when you go back to your world, it's like you never left your world. Maybe you got some more experiences like that, but like you're not making progress in your world or anything. Which is kind of what Dark Souls has always been. You're always going into people's worlds and helping them guide them through their world. So that's not unlike how it's been. But again, it's dumb how to get people into your world, and I know Dark Souls fans are gonna be like, "Oh, with the lore, there's only like a lore reason why you got to use bells or whatever." I really don't give a shit. Like,
you gotta use those bells so you can.
I just need an invite button. I just need to play with my friend right now, and I don't know if they make it hard on purpose to like dissuade you from doing it.
That's what she said.
That's what it feels like to me, at least, where it's like, we're going to make it personally hard. So like, people will just give up easily and not do this. Like it just feels so dumb to like do it this way. And again, I know I'm making Dark Souls like fanatics like super mad about that because I know every mechanic is the way that it's supposed to be because FromSoftware is like perfect.
That's just them excusing any possible criticism you could possibly have.
Okay, but here's the thing,
which is not fair to me.
It's not just Dark Souls games.
Get good, Jeff.
Like Kyle, remember when we tried to team up on Monster Hunter? Even that was a little convoluted. Like, how do we launch this from?
Maybe not to get racial. Maybe it's the Japanese. I don't know.
Oh wow.
Maybe it's the Japanese. Maybe Japanese developers.
I think these long-standing franchises, and you're right.
Racist Kyle coming out.
This is essentially a Lost Souls game. Let's be honest, or a Dark Souls game. Let's be honest. And so,
it absolutely is.
Every franchise kind of has its mechanics that it uses. Monster Hunter will continue to use their way of doing multiplayer, where you have to look at certain boards and talk to certain characters, and this will do the same thing with the bells. That's just what they're gonna do. That's just how they do it. And so not all of them will have the very easy, like, oh, if you're in the same party, just hit join game, you'll load up in their world. That'd be great.
And I will say, now that I've done it 100 times, I do it right every single time now, but like that first time figuring out how to do it, and I know, again, this is like probably making me seem stupid. It took me like over an hour to like, wait, so I have to what now? I have to get flowers and I have to create.
To be fair, they keep giving you multiplayer centric items, all these fingers they keep giving you, and it explains how that works.
That's what she said also.
Yeah.
They give you all kinds of fingers, and then they explain it. I'll be honest, I skipped those info windows. I'm like, I'm not gonna do multiplayer for a while, and I skipped it.
But they're so in depth, like that particular like instruction, that when you're ready to do that, hours later, you're like, what was that tutorial again? Like that was so long ago, and I've slept since then, and I don't. It's just it's needlessly hard, and I don't care how much part of the lore it's supposed to be. It's dumb. Fix it.
Not to mention, Xbox players can't even do multiplayer.
I didn't know that.
And I heard in some reviews that I think it was ACG that was. I think he might have been playing on PC, where he was like, I don't know, I couldn't connect to other people's games and stuff like that.
Oh.
But sure, 10 out of 10, guys. Yeah, makes sense.
Ooh, sick burn.
I'm
Dan's here,
so
by the
sick
way.
of the 10 out
Welcome.
of 10 reviews,
Dan.
bro. I'm pretty heated about it.
Thank you.
Hey,
You Midwesterners like to just jump the gun, huh? You're like, forget about them East Coasters.
Well, Kyle's
whatever.
gonna have to leave soon, so we wanted to get him in the
Aw.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle and I spent like in total. Well, it was over the span of like what 2 weeks, Kyle, but like
Sure,
three
yeah.
3.5 hours together talking about Dragon Ball Z, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
he specifically
right, right.
said, "I'll
Wow.
talk till Dan gets there, then I'm out." So-
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've had my fill of Dan this week, guys.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame. I've had my fill of Dan this week, so
I've had my fill
So
of me
I
this
got
week,
to
be
an
honest.
NPC in Elden Ring up by this bridge up near the castle, and she reminds me of the creepy old lady from The Tragedy of Macbeth, that movie, that new one with Denzel. And there's this creepy old witch lady who can kind of
yeah,
like her limbs are kind of beside her and behind, like she's
like
very
blind or
very
whatever.
contorted and stuff.
very
yeah.
contorted. There's a character like that who's got this giant head with like her just empty sockets for eyeballs, and she talks to you about fingers a lot. There's a lot of
Sounds
finger
like a Dark Souls
conversation.
character. Yeah, absolutely.
So I got to her, and I was like, she said a bunch of stuff that I was like, guys, if you're trying to make me care about story, none of this makes any sense. Like after she's done talking, a little menu thing will come up and say, if you want to do this, push X. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's what she was saying. Oh, okay, got it. Like
Yeah.
it's that type of thing. You know what I mean?
It's
And
contextual. Is contextual storytelling, Tim? Is that the term?
I
that
guess.
we're looking for?
Listen, I've got no problem if they said, hey, this is open world Dark Souls, called it Elden
I
Souls
wish
or
I
whatever.
would have just said that.
Because
be honest.
then I know what I'm getting into, and I'm like, I'm gonna give this one a shot because I like the idea of open world Dark Souls. But you are right, and people can talk about, well, stop listening to marketing all they want. All the previews, all of their own marketing, and the way they talked about it, and all the time building up to it was about story, and
They hired George R. R. Martin.
George R. R.
Hey,
Martin.
dude,
George
yeah,
Real World
come
Martin.
on, yeah. To write notes about
So-
lore beats that don't make sense or connect in
He
any
made.
real
Did he
way,
make up the
you know,
words
like,
for them? Is that what he
oh,
did?
if you read the item descriptions, you guys, like, you'll get the full.
No.
Shut up, guys. Like, that's why. That's
That's
why
the
there's
problem.
like 2 YouTube channels out there that break down the whole lore because they're the only 2 people on Earth that actually understand it. Like,
But that's the
I'm
case for all the
so-
Souls
so
games
over
and
it. Yes, it is.
Bloodborne, right?
I mean, that's what I'm making fun of. Is that like
is.
Souls
Although I
people
thought-
will come out of the woodworks to defend like this is just the way they tell stories, guys.
I
And
do
it's just
think
like that's great.
Bloodborne and Sekiro had a bit of a story to them more than
definitely
Souls
Sekiro.
games.
Yeah.
I would
I
say
thought
more
Bloodborne
Sekiro
did
than
too.
Bloodborne. Yeah, Bloodborne. I feel like I picked up bits of what's going on, but like I didn't know what I was in that city for, or what was going. Like why is there Cthulhu
So,
monsters? Like
Are we just like? Is this like just out the gate? We're doing Elden Ring. Is that what we're doing? Or
Yeah, we're just
Yeah, yeah.
And I
Alright,
guess
so-
just to wrap up my thoughts, like I sound really negative on it. I'm 11 hours in. I'm loving it.
you
So,
sound like
I-
Jaffe right now, right? I'm gonna need
Well,
you.
I
To
I want to set expectations that like I don't give a shit if you want to call this 10 out of 10, whatever. That's fine, whatever. It's not gonna be a game of the year for me at the end of the year, but I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would be, despite feeling a little deceived by the marketing. So that's kind of where I'm sitting on it. I'm enjoying the ride a lot.
I was skeptical about the narrative stuff going in, and I've been proven right in my skepticism. And I'm okay with that. I'm just annoyed that everyone pretended like it was going to be some epic story, and it's not. That being said, there might be a story you have to dig for. Thanks for making me do extra work, and there might be some good stuff there. That's classic Souls. Put that stuff aside for a second. Almost everything else about the game is incredibly well made and pretty admirable. Like the world they've built, it's really creative and wide open, lots of stuff to do. The enemy, the art design, we can talk about the graphics in a second, but the art design, amazing. Like so good.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so
Isn't that always been the case?
It's always
I
been
mean,
the case,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
still there
Really
again.
cool enemy
They
designs.
continue to carry that torch of great.
Yeah,
enemy
now it's
design
but
and
now
boss
it's an
design.
open world as opposed
Sure.
to like open area and smaller corridors like the older games used to be. Had some open areas, had some castles to get through and stuff.
Mhm.
Now it's wide open. You can go any direction, and you're gonna find something interesting. I mean, we all talked about this already, but when you head south of that first kind of gate ruins village where you can do a little bit of grinding to build up your skills a little bit, you go south of that, and all of a sudden you'll see these 2 giants pulling this huge carriage, and it's like, well, I guess they're kind of tied on, they're chained onto this thing, so I'm gonna kill them, and you can kill them, and then you can steal the chest from from that carriage. Little moments like that, I was like, they did a good job creating what feels like an alive world that I can explore in any direction and find something cool. Lots of caves, lots of pits, and lots of stuff to discover. Lots of optional stuff to go and poke around. Maybe go a little too far, and all of a sudden you're like, whoops, they're way stronger than me.
I've walked past the same like rock 3 times, and only on the 3rd time did I realize I was like, oh, there's a tunnel here. Like,
it's hard to
so like
find
there
them,
are
right?
things, there's so things tucked away or behind brush or whatever that like if you're not actually literally turning over every stone in this game, like you'll miss like huge secrets and stuff.
That's what that review that Derek shared. Like I watched most of it because I pretty much got the gist of what they were saying for like 20 minutes in. I think it was like 28-minute review or 31 minutes.
Like 36, yeah.
Okay. Really long. And like the part where they're talking about the way that like sort of all the cliffs are so jaggedy and like all of the different like heights and everything, and it's like they're almost making it impossible to find caves, but it's like it's to encourage you to be like going through every nook and cranny and riding that touring around and explore. It's pushing you to explore in a natural way instead of the checkboxy way. Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. Because, I mean, Horizon approaches it that way, right? Or it's like, it's sort of leaning that way, but it is a little natural because you also do have the choice to just kind of meander.
They give you a choice at the beginning. Do you want to have a much more guided experience?
Right.
More of
even that way.
Experience?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I like doing it this way, where it is more natural. But I do kind of think that so like I don't know if you saw that tweet that Jason Schreier did about like having a journal like next to him, like an actual physical journal and like taking notes. I think that's a little much. Like I think a game should have some kind of log, and then it's just really the onus is on you as the gamer to decide if you want to just really just constantly be staring at that or not. Like
you mean like as far as mapping and stuff, or for what?
Or like when you stumble across like a character and like a quest, essentially, like some kind of quest log or something, just to kind of keep it organized.
Games. I don't do that anymore because I can't be bothered with something like that. But like, if someone does that, I'm like, I've that's a realm I'm familiar with. At least,
sure.
That's just a personal. I mean, like again,
I'm not going to do it now, but
no,
it's something I have dabbled in.
I'm definitely not going to do that. I'm just going to explore, and if I happen to remember a quest, and I'm like, and then I stumble across, it's just going to happen naturally. But I don't know.
I came across a guy who was like in the form of a talking bush, and like I couldn't interact with him because I was in co-op with somebody, and I was like, I'll have to go back and talk to him, and I don't remember what it was. I'm gonna write it down, But at some point, a bush is gonna talk to me again, and I'll be like, oh yeah, there it is. All right.
At some point,
a talking bush.
I mean that's just like a little gripe, and I mean, this is a Souls game. It is. It's a Souls game, except you can jump and you can crouch. But this is literally just a Souls game. Like,
hey, I do like the stealth element to it because I love a game with some good stealth. That's Jeff. We were talking about this earlier. That's kind of how I'm playing Horizon a lot. Is lots of stealth and then maybe aim for a certain component to try to knock off first to kind of get the battle started. Maybe lay some traps and then go as ranged as possible. Like I'm having a lot of fun with that approach. Yeah. So I tried that here too, and the stealth works pretty well. You can get in some really good backstabs if you sneak up. And I discovered if you're not moving, if you kind of come to a stop and then you hit the small attack, then you'll do like a instant kill, like assassination.
Real backstab, yeah.
I didn't realize
you get more not Souls runes for doing that too. So if you kill people that way, like you'll get more runes.
Not Souls runes. Yeah. These aren't Souls guys. This is totally different.
It's not Blood guys. It's not Bloodborne. Come on.
Different currency,
story.
Guys. Different currency.
Completely different thing.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't realize
the story will explain all this.
I had been walking up behind him and just started swinging every time, and so I could take him out in a couple hits. I didn't realize there was an actual like assassinate animation and it kills him like that.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, discovering things like that's been fun. I've been using Vagabond for the most part. I did jump over to try Bandit a little bit. I was thinking, you know what? All the Horizon I'm playing, I want to do more stealth. I want to be faster, and I want to use a bow. And so I started it. I like the fast attack. You can't block for anything, so you have this dumb little shield that really doesn't do anything. But the fast attack with the dagger is cool. And then I went to start shooting my bow, and I was like, oh, bows and arrows in this game are awful. Okay. All right. I don't want to do this anymore. Now they've got some cool moves you can unlock. And I've watched some videos on that before I gave up on it completely. And in general, and even our buddy Sasan, who loves all the Souls games, he was like, oh no, the bows in all the Souls games are bad. They've always been bad. I was like, oh.
You can kind of cheese some moments with them. Like,
I don't mind. I mean, there's nothing to it.
Especially in this one.
You just lock on and shoot. There's like there's nothing to it, but
no,
like,
right.
And you can go into
I like it because like in a pinch, like I can just pull it out and like do some damage real quick. But like, at no point am I going like, ooh, this feels good. You know,
so with Horizon, with Horizon, it feels great. Or even like
with Horizon, every time I release a bow in Horizon, I'm like, oh.
And I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem is that other games have done it so well that this I'm like, ugh. For all the intricate combat that they have, this feels like such a tacked on piece. So I'm not here to say it's the worst or that it deserves
it's unchanged from Dark Souls for sure.
It's just kind of like, oh, this isn't interesting to me. I understand why they have it, but it's not like honestly throwing knives is more fun than using the bow and arrow. But anyway, I got to the point where I started grinding that village for a while, trying to level up a little bit and get a little more confidence before branching out. And I honestly, at that point, was like, oh, this is usually when I stop playing Souls games, is I'm a couple hours in and I've stuck in a spot because I want to grind to get stronger. And then I get super bored and I'm like, this is not fun. That's because you're not advancing. You're just kind of playing it safe.
Yeah.
So I decided, hey, this is open world. I'm just going to pick a direction, jump on my spirit horse, and just start going. And I did that this afternoon a bit. Way more fun. Finding all kinds of stuff, stumbling upon all kinds of cool looking, weird looking enemies and areas, some places that I'm like, oh, I need to come back to this because this looks like it's going to have some good stuff in it. I'm just way too weak, things like that. Finding the carriage, the giant drawn carriage that's being pulled. So that's what I recommend for folks. I recommend that you explore as you grind.
I think that's a great advice. Like, don't dig in like you would like oh, this is my favorite corridor to run down. Let me grind this corridor, make sure I can get this boss or whatever. Like,
maybe do it a few times, but don't get stuck there.
The more that I feel like I just walk away from something that's giving me like, I don't know, grief or whatever, like the more fun I'm having with this game. And I know that's a freedom that only exists in this game when we're talking about Souls games. So big hats off to that.
I just shared real quick. I actually this is why I was late, because I just wasn't even aware. I found this video where basically this guy kind of pinpoints, like, I think it's around 1920 little spots where, so those little golden runes or whatever that gives you extra souls, quote unquote. So there's like kind of like he maps out some of those spots, and then just some other things like the blacksmith in the what is it, the table room, whatever it's called. Oh, I forget what that area is called. But the hub area, sure. And then there's a female character that you find where she seems very like timid, and she's like, oh, my bodyguards all got their arms and legs cut off and blah blah blah, and she's like very scared. But then she ends up going there, and she has actually a purpose. So there's some stuff pertaining to the like the spells, like the summoning spells. So I don't know if you've guys bought the wolf pack like spell.
I've gotten that one. I've gotten a jellyfish one.
So yeah, exactly. So she can actually beef those up. So she's nice. That person.
Oh, so she's back at the hub beefing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna beef those up. Yeah.
There's a little thing that you have to do. So he actually pinpoints like you talk to the blacksmith guy, and then you go back to her, and then back to the blacksmith. So basically, he trains her.
I haven't gotten to the hub area yet. I've gotten to her though, where she just keeps whining about how scared she is. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
So you haven't gotten to the hub area yet.
So the hub area you get to by attempting the first main boss like a couple times or whatever. And then
I don't even know where the first main boss is. I have no idea.
If you keep on going down that road that you're going down.
In the castle.
Just keep on following like the yellow, like.
The farthest I got to the castle was I got past that entrance where they were shooting the gigantic ballista thing at me.
Right beyond there's the boss. There'll be a campfire
I went around those guys and I killed them, and then I got that save point, but then I left and I wanted to keep exploring.
So that save point is right outside the boss's lair.
I would actually I kind of wish I did this right before the boss, because then I'd be curious how much easier it would have been. It took me quite a few turns to beat that guy. Because I'm playing as samurai, because my health is a little lower. It's high stamina, low health. It would have been actually kind of fun to see if like this little path that this guy takes you on in this video like would have beefed me up, even because I didn't have the wolves at that time. Now I have the wolves, so I'm wondering if
I would have never been able to beat that boss without a sidekick or something.
Okay, yeah, I beat it with no
because I suck at these games. So like I was like, I need to call in an NPC. I need to pull out my wolves. Actually, the jellyfish is actually really good for that boss fight, just as a tip or whatever. And like I think that's the cool accessibility that's been added to these games, is that like, maybe there's not an easy mode, to bring up that awful, ridiculous conversation.
Yeah.
But there are accessibility points in this game that allows you to, everything feels a little more surmountable. Right? Like I feel like everything's a little more surmountable. Like God, I'm getting I like that first boss 15 times I kept on dying on it. The one in the castle or whatever. Yeah. But the second I was like, oh, let me call in an NPC, let me pull out my wolf boys or my jellyfish. Like things are really because like they get distracted. The bots will totally turn to them and start attacking them, and you can backstab them and do all this stuff and you can rack up a lot of really good damage.
It was a real pain. I definitely would have liked having those wolves by my side, but I did manage somehow. I actually switched to two-handed. I usually do I have the little round shield and I had the katana. And I think upwards of 15 times. And then I was just like, you know what? Screw the shield. I'm just gonna go in two-handed because I think that I'm pretty sure that does more damage.
It does more damage, but you attack slower.
Right. But I did manage at that point to after like maybe 2-3 times trying two-handed. I did get them. So, but it probably again it would have been easier with having some sidekicks.
So much easier, yeah.
You know, there was something cool about I got that first two-handed weapon. I'm sure everyone got that same great sword. It's in one of those early chests, I think.
Yeah.
So I started using that two-handed on that little village, and then I upgraded my strength to 16. Doing Vagabond, I wanted that to be mostly strength and then lots of HP. And then now I can just use it with one hand, and I have a full-on like legit shield on the other hand. And as long as I'm paying attention, as long as I don't get kind of like lazy, I can take out most of the enemies that are in that area in that level.
Sure.
And once you stop paying attention, even the weakest enemies will kill you.
Because it's slow, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you're not paying attention, absolutely.
Yeah.
But anyway, it is very satisfying to see that progression. I do like that a lot. Where it's like, hey, why don't you just pick the vigor and endurance is going to be good for every class, no matter what. Give yourself more health and give yourself more stamina. It's going to help no matter what class. And then just identify your one main attack stat. So for me, it's going to be strength. For some, it's dexterity. For some, it's intelligence. And if you really, and I forget who I was reading some kind of guide that said that at the beginning, like at the very basic level, if you want to know how to think about this, level up your one main attack stat, and then vigor and endurance are always good ones to keep adding to as well. And that's it. That's where to start. Of course, as you get more familiar with the game, you could probably get much more creative and understand. I actually do 2 points over here. Whatever, that's fine.
Especially with magic.
At a very basic level, that's a good way to start, and that's how I've been approaching it. And I've actually been seeing myself get. I know people always say get good. I'm like, okay, but also just get your stats a little higher. That helps too. Like I'm not really playing any better. I'm just, I can actually take a few hits now.
You're also not beefing up your weapons because the blacksmith will raise the power of your weapons too. So
all I've done is the little at that little table at the beginning with the zombie Santa.
That's the same thing. You're limited to how much you can do there, but like
right,
yeah. I think I was really confused. I've got my sword at +3, so it's doing okay.
Oh, okay. Jeff, are you playing it? Because I feel like you haven't said
I played like an hour of it.
Oh, okay.
Vagabond, and then I decided to switch to Astrologer because I was watching. I've been watching more gameplay videos of this than actually playing them, to be honest. But
you're studying.
I literally am. I'm like, okay.
You're a student of the game.
Like, do I really want to dive in the way these people are diving in? I'm basically looking for the right person to make it look a little bit. There's never going to be an easy mode, and
tolerable.
If there was an easy mode, this game would get like 7 and 8s. Okay, because that's part of the thing. That's part of the game. That is the game. You know what I mean?
I agree with you.
So that's my take on that. First off, but there are people that will show you certain rhythms of enemies that will kind of help you move along a little better. Or like, you don't come out the gate fighting with the tree sentinel unless you're a freaking idiot like I am. Because the game is telling you that's their way of designing the map to show you noobs like me, it's okay to walk away at the beginning. Like it's fun. You don't have to see like every enemy you see. You don't have to attack them.
I've taken a wide path around him every time.
Exactly. Same here. So maybe revisit him later. So I switched to Astrologer mainly because I am not ready yet, at least in this game, being my first one I'm actually diving into for close-up combat. And I was watching Astrologer combat, and it's just like you're just far away, just flinging magic at them, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I could do that. Just make sure my flashes are good and all. Yeah, it looks great. So that's making my life a little bit easier.
Make sure you get those wolves, man, because those wolves will act as your tanks while you're attacking from a distance.
Yeah, there's 3 of them. There's 3 of them.
They're pretty easy to get. I think you just have to go. You just have to go talk to the first NPC lady by the gate, and then go back to that first church where the Santa zombie guy is. And then once I think once you're back,
there sitting there.
There's another lady there who you talk to.
Yep.
And so she'll give you the wolves at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for that, but I haven't even I just like basically copied over I saved my ugly face. By the way, they didn't need to add customization at all. You can't see your face at all ever. Character never talks.
Unless you just
matter.
don't wear a helmet or whatever. But
right, it's true. But I saved my ugly face. I purposely make my dudes look dumb whenever there's customization in any game. So I saved that as a favorite, and I just imported that over to my astrologer.
Nice.
And that's pretty much how far I got. I'm like, okay, I got past the first person you're supposed to die facing, and then spit back out in the open world. That's where I left off.
Okay. Yeah.
But I do know from seeing so much gameplay of an astrologer walkthrough that this is probably the one for me to start, at least to start out with, and then maybe once I feel a little bit cockier, once I can finally like kind of get into a rhythm, because that's what this game's all about, is teaching yourself how to get good, I guess. There's an element of being rewarded that way. Maybe
it's funny you said get into a rhythm. I've
Pokemon.
seen multiple outlets say if you treat a lot of the combat elements almost like a rhythm game, you might have more success than if you think of it like a action game.
I saw that like about Sekiro, which I agree with. I don't see that for this, but that doesn't mean that you're not like right. Like
I just think it's
the more ways you can throw out there to like people think about it in a way that makes them understand, I think the better. Sekiro, I really felt that way because I was just like, oh, I suck at this game just like I do rhythm games.
So can I be a little bit of a troll? Yeah, I think Sekiro is a way better game than this game.
I don't know if that's being trolling though. I mean, both of these games got like 9s and 10s.
But overall, it's not reviewed right now as high as Elden Ring is technically.
Isn't it though?
Yeah,
I thought
Sekiro was like
it
was like a 91 on Metacritic.
Well,
I mean, obviously,
we're
Elden
talking
Ring
about
can still
5,
go down.
but like when you're talking about like how it hit industry,
We're talking about Game of the Year award winners either way.
Yeah. Like Sekiro swept a lot of Game of the Award. Like,
right.
But I don't know. I just think you're saying this really good game is as good as this new good game.
Well, it's just like the.
I don't know how trolly that is.
But because like people just love all of these FromSoft games, and it's like Sekiro is absolutely like the like weird redheaded stepchild. Because it's definitely the most different one out of all of them. Which 100%. One, based off just that alone is what makes me appreciate it more. And I just think the fluidity of the combat is the best. Like I think it's just the best that they've made combat wise. But then it's like, to me, it's weird that they're like, oh, let's just do the Dark Souls thing again, but like more open world and add crouching and jumping. It's like, okay, well, first of all, you should have had that in all your games. It's absurd that you can't jump or crouch in any of those games. It's like, what is this? Ocarina of Time? Like, no jump button.
I just don't.
If you go back to
if
Dark
your game
Souls
doesn't have a
1
jump
through
button,
3,
I just go, oh, then I don't jump in this game, and I just kind of move on. So
people who play
people say that about Final Fantasy Remake. They're like, you can't jump in this game, like, ooh, so I'm just
I'm poking fun at Gaston. I'm poking.
But if people play Elden Ring and then they want to go back to Dark Souls, like, well, I like this, they're going to be disappointed with how it controls.
Yeah, I agree, and I think Sekiro has a much more unique combat system as well. Whenever we're talking about this, because this is Dark Souls.
It's got a grapple hook. Every good game has grapple hooks.
But I will be the troll. I think Sekiro sucks, and I hate that game. I think that game is so insanely hard, and that's how you troll. You
y'all just mad that you can't beat Sekiro.
I am. Every day I'm mad that I can't play a samurai game that was literally made for me, and I'm like, I can't enjoy this game. No, that game is like particularly very. Like it demands a lot out of you. Whereas like Dark Souls, even when Dark Souls is hard, it's like, okay, I should have maybe just like light swung instead of heavy swung there. But like for Sekiro, it's like you should have been like ducking and aiming upwards and like it's just like
grappling and doing whatever bananas nonsense. Yeah.
Whereas like again, I think there's an approachableness to Elden Ring that's like it's really beckoning me in a way that I'm like following the dumb siren song where I'm just like, show me something different. And every time like I am fighting something, I go, this is Dark Souls. Like,
I guess I just don't get the upset. Like people talk about Dark Souls or the Souls games, and obviously it's really just a matter of what your preference is at the end of the day. But it's like, have y'all ever played like a Devil May Cry or like a Bayonetta or any of those games that are like fast but still require patience and timing too? So it's like,
and they're tough. They're very tough games.
Yeah.
At times.
Yeah.
So it's
I think they're two very
No,
games,
they are.
you know,
They
yeah.
are different games. I get it, but it's
no,
like
no. But you're right. I think they offer kind of a similar,
and they just
gratification
feel
when you
better,
beat
right?
something.
Like playing as
I
Dante
think playing
or
Devil May
Nero,
Cry
like,
5 feels better all day than playing any Dark Souls game.
Yeah,
You know
like-
what I mean? Or Bayonetta or anything like that. Personally, again, like I know the Sassans Sassans out there and other people in our group will be like, no, Dark Souls is the pinnacle of action RPG.
right?
You're right.
I don't
Maybe
understand.
for you, sure, yeah.
I just don't.
Man.
I don't
like
understand.
the in between. I like the games that split the difference because Dark Souls games are so intentional and methodical. Like the combat feels slow, which is to its benefit. It's very very slow. And then playing something like Devil May Cry Bayonetta, after it's done, I need to just take a breath and breathe because it's so fast.
Yeah.
It's too fast, and I love it, but I'm also kind of like,
See,
I'm exhausted. So I like the in between. I like games. That's why
I'm almost exhausted by the Souls games more because of how stressful it is to get through an area.
That's fair.
I'm like, Jesus
they
Christ,
both
I
are
survived.
stressful in their own ways, but that's why I like. That's why I like a good Horizon or Assassin's Creed. That's like, hey, this is gonna be speedy enough that you're not feeling like, boy, they're trying to go for real realism here, but it's also not so fast that it's like you can miss things if you have like one chance. In Bayonetta, if you miss something, you could get clobbered real fast in some of those.
Listen, I'm just trying to say that all you people that think that Souls is literally like the second coming of Christ are just a bunch of cucks. All right, so
I got to be honest.
Let's turn it down.
So Dan, that's trolling right there. What you're doing now is trolling, and I'm gonna double down and go. Dan is right. You Souls fans, you suck. You kind of suck. As like a fan base, you kind of are gatekeeping weird sucky people. So
I kind of hope that all of you get AIDS. To be honest,
I don't want you to die.
At least an uncomfortable
maybe like
butthole itch or
maybe like a very itchy
butthole
chest. Like I just you scratch, you might bleed a little bit.
All right, fine. No AIDS, just whatever Kyle's saying.
Okay, let me ask you guys this: do you think, because we're talking about Souls games and Elden Ring included in there, of course, do you think it's actually that these games are difficult, or is it that they're just complex and very different from other games? Are they?
I think they are difficult. And I actually get bothered when people go, these games aren't hard, guys, just play it. It's like, actually, pat yourself on the back. It's hard and you're good at it. And it's okay to say, I'm good at these games. And I think people should say that more. But this whole narrative, they're like, they're not hard, just play it. Oh, fuck you. Oh, sorry, excuse me.
I feel the same way.
I'm just like, it is a hard game. And you should just take the accomplishment that you're actually good at it and just go, they're really hard. I kind of understand their language, so I'm pretty good at them. Pat myself on the back. What are you having problems with? Instead of just being like, oh, get good. They're not hard. Just play by the rules of the game. No, they are hard games. Yeah. And and you're good at them, and that's okay. And you should celebrate that instead of ripping everybody else down. Because they're not.
Shocker, Kyle. There's two sides of a thing, just like with every other issue in existence. There's always two sides. People arguing about.
How about that?
Yeah.
Instead of just meeting in the middle, Instead of just meeting in the middle and being like, all right, well,
So I wanted to circle back because you mentioned some people not being into these games and it's an entirely subjective experience, and that's me. This is so not my cup of tea as it ever gets, because I look at the art style and when you say FromSoftware to me, I just envision a game that's gray and dark blue and dark brown, has gray clouds.
You got it.
Gothic. And that art style to my eyes is just like diarrhea. I just don't like it.
And the bosses have things coming out of their chests and their faces.
Yeah, like diarrhea.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I really, really admire the art design, and some of the enemies is just insane.
Really good.
The fact that somebody could think up that from scratch is just amazing to me. But the game, George. It's just, I look at that art style and I'm immediately like, oh, and then I see Elden Ring is just like that. And I'm like, oh, well, this is not for me. But it is the best that art style has ever looked, in my opinion, for sure. And I don't know. I'll try to stick with it, but Horizon is so at the forefront of my brain and just exactly my play style, It's just my type of open world, even if it might be a little bit too much bullcrap side stuff to do.
I think what works to Elden Ring's advantage is because, I mean, again, let's be honest, the story isn't something, it's not presented to you like how Horizon presents its story. Mm-hmm. You can back away from Elden Ring and then focus on Horizon, go back to Elden, and you're fine.
You can't get lost. You can't really get lost in the story because you're going to be lost regardless the entire time. So
yeah. You'll have to get back into the swing of the combat with Elden Ring, but this weekend for me, it's dedicated to just Elden Ring, and then I'm hopping right back into Horizon because I don't want too much time away from the story. You know what I mean? Because again,
I don't want the story to slip. I don't want to jump back into Horizon and be like, who are you? Like, why are you hanging out in my hub area?
For me, having been programmed to play Horizon successfully, is I go play Elden Ring, and when I'm trying to stealth, I'm drinking a flask, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
I accidentally heal in Elden Ring so much, and is that why? Because is that the stealth button in Horizon?
It's X.
That is what is happening, and I'm just now putting this together as you're saying
this.
Like, I am just now putting this together. Like, I'll like, hey, I'm walking up to the ruins, heal.
God damn it! And then you get hit like a bunch of times. You're like, damn it, I should.
Oh man,
it happens to me all the time. Also, another thing I wanted to bring up is I know that this is like not a thing that Souls fans play these games for. We mentioned the narrative being either non-existent or just nonsense. But so pretty much, are the reviewers or the critics, journalists that played this, are they Souls fans? Is that what it is? Because usually narrative is weighed into a score, and I feel like they didn't even consider it. You know what I mean?
And I don't know. You know, I try not to get hung up on like why people give what thing what number.
I know, but when you say 10-10 and like
no, and I get what you mean, and that's why I'm not writing off like I'm not like, oh, Jeff, don't get all worked up about it, because like it is something to think about. You know, it's like it's I don't know. You know, like I don't know what industry types are Dark Souls fans or whatever. Maybe people came in thinking like, this is a Dark Souls game who gives a shit about story. Like maybe
but
that's
when
kind
you
of what
play
it
the
is,
game, I don't get the vibe that the game is trying to tell me some incredible story and they're doing a bad job of it.
Yeah, no, it's not.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I was scoring this, I would have a hard time scoring it poorly on story because the game's not really trying to tell me a story.
Yes.
So would I really mark it off for narrative? Not really, because it's not like they have all these NPCs that are poorly acted.
That's a good point.
They're not like
excellent voice acting. You know, like.
Well, like, do we ding Monster Hunter for not having a story when it comes out? Those don't have stories, you know. So it's like, I guess some games kind of get like
Monster
a narrative.
Hunter always has a village leader who's like, let's go.
Right. I'm fat and kind of jovial. Do you want missions? You know?
Let's fight that just absurdly large monster that we absolutely wouldn't be able to kill at all. Let's just fight that.
Here, take its back spine and kill it with it. Oh, yeah, all right. I'll take that. All right.
Use this to make a slide for the children.
I don't know. So I think Tim's probably right. Like, it's a case-by-case basis. I don't know if there's like, whenever you're reviewing a game, you don't go, okay, next section, story. What is this? You know,
Horizon is fair to judge that in the story because it's so narrative heavy. Narrative heavy.
Absolutely.
And thankfully they're delivering on it, for me at least. I think they're
I agree.
There is some weird stuff going on in that game.
There is.
I am so all the way here for it. I couldn't be more present.
It's very sci-fi. Like they were like, hey, we're a sci-fi game. Let's lean into it.
Yeah. No, there are moments where they're standing in environments when I'm going, this is a sci-fi game. Like we're so far beyond being a primitive, you know.
Yeah, it almost sometimes looks like the Halo Infinite, like the dungeons, whatever those were called that you were in. Remember, like some of the design of the metal everywhere. It's just like, wow.
Oh, in Horizon, you know what it actually reminds me of? It reminds me of the Matrix, to be honest.
The Matrix, yeah.
Really?
I get that too. I get that.
Oh.
It's super cool.
Oh, you mean like the Machine City? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The cauldrons are very Matrixy. Absolutely.
There's okay. I just wanted to talk out the narrative part in the reviews because it's good to bring those up, and then you guys can,
of course,
change.
Well, the one area that I do think that
a different perspective.
Jaffe was right. No one's really coming down on this game for really not being top of the line, cutting edge visual showpiece. Listen, this is not an ugly game. I would not go as far as others last week might have gone as far as to call Horizon ugly and blurry. I would never do that about the Elden Ring. Okay,
if I were here, I would have never allowed that to transpire.
You know what's funny?
Pretty hard.
I'm sorry, Derek got kicked. Anyways, no, it doesn't look like that.
I will say, since he pointed it out, if you're looking in the background, sometimes it's blurry. But that's if you're looking specifically in the background when there's a cinematic scene happening.
When I watched the Digital Foundry video that he was referencing, and to his credit, that the guy does talk about performance mode versus quality mode, and when you're in performance mode, it is not as sharp. He doesn't ever say blurry or ugly. He just said it's not as sharp, and if you're okay with that and don't find that to be something you notice, that mode's fine. But I like quality mode because blah blah blah. And
so he just Derricked it. I hope he hears this.
He put it through a Derek filter. He put it through a Derek filter, and that's
right.
Back to Elden Ring real quick too. I think visually, there are elements of it that I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Like whether it's your cloak on your back as you're running,
Yeah.
like some of the animations look really good. But then there's
Yeah,
other
for
parts
sure.
where I'm like, look at this field. This grass looks like paper mache, kind of just moving back and forth. This looks real
Yeah.
bad.
Like a single
But
strand
then
of
if
grass.
you look up like 2 feet, like you're like, oh, that tree looks really good.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
the
that
tree's
burning
gorgeous.
orange tree. But then you look down,
Yes.
and you're like, maybe not so much the grass, you know?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
you see an enemy and like, look how detailed this enemy is. Even his face, everything about him is so detailed. And then
Yeah,
that
yeah.
rock looks nothing like Tales of Arise.
Dude, the
Nothing.
cliffs
I
in this game are not to, anything to gripe home about.
Yeah.
Well, and
So-
I don't want to pile onto it. Maybe not being like, oh, it doesn't deserve it at 10. And maybe it's not getting, graded as hard as it is. But like, I think you guys have a point though. It isn't really because like Ghost of Tsushima was getting like 8s because of like frame rate issues and like
That game is
like
gorgeous,
little
though.
and like that's a 10 out of 10 game to me. Like whenever you're
Same.
playing,
I agree with you.
when you're playing Ghost of Tsushima, like, and I saw it getting 8s, I was like, are we high right now? Like, I don't understand
absolutely.
why.
All
And
of the
whereas
trucks,
this
Kyle.
game is
All
getting
of the
like, I
trucks.
couldn't believe how many 10s. Not that it doesn't deserve it. I don't want to go into a conversation, at least from my side, of why it does or does not deserve that coveted number.
I
but
think it
like,
deserves it. That
when
was
I-
our game
when
of the
I-
year
when I-
last year, 2 years
when
ago.
I look at like Ghost of Tsushima that got graded very hard on things that this same game is shortcoming on, and it's getting 10s, you have to start thinking, and this is my whole point. Oh, the rating system is dumb.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, okay, that's a
these
fair
are
point. That's a
both,
great
these
point.
are both,
Or it's the obsession
like,
with FromSoft, right?
where it's the and
Could be some of
which
that
is
too.
which I think Jeff was leaning into, which I think there is a bit of that. We always talk about the Rockstar curve. Well, Rockstar game comes out and it just gets 10s. Personally, I think a lot of us here may agree with it. They deserve it every single time. Personally, I think Rockstar kind of above and beyond shows up and stuff like that. But I could say the same.
They make
that,
a game every 7 years, and they're always great. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
and
that's
they take
just
7 years to put them out too. So
Right.
like,
Exactly. You would
they are
expect it, right?
functioning in a
Yeah.
way that a lot of games aren't. And I would also say that Ghost of Tsushima had that like layer of quality. Like I don't remember for it being an open world game, like a mission just not working. Like Horizon, I'm experiencing that in this game right now. Like so like I don't remember there being a lot of shortcomings with Ghost of Tsushima. It got 8s across the board.
It was on a technical level. It was pretty flawless, and
it
I don't
broke
even
down
remember frame rate
barriers of
drops.
open world like tropes and stuff like that. Like just getting rid
Gorgeous.
of all like the mess like on your HUD and
Again,
stuff like that.
the sort of natural progression like Elden Ring is doing.
Yes, they
you
both
know.
kind of really want you to naturally
Or like
maybe-
Breath of the Wild, like that kind
Maybe
of.
if Ghost
Very
had,
much so,
had
yes.
no difficulty selection and it was just really hard, maybe you would get 10s.
Maybe we get 10 out of 10s. Yeah,
it's interesting, I think,
Yeah. This is the Dark Souls of Samurai games, Jeff.
Oh, sign me up.
those who would say no, Elden Ring is like my favorite game ever. It's a masterpiece, and I can't really argue that you're
I would never
wrong. That's
stop you
very
from saying
No,
subjective.
and
It's fine.
you know why? It's because the Souls fans, this is the game that they've wanted
Sure.
since Souls came out.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Is
Yeah.
that
And-
gameplay is king in every genre, in my opinion. If the game is fun, that can kind of make you forget about a story being bland or bad, even, or the graphics not being quite there. I mean, a good gameplay can trump all that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And I totally get that. I feel like you make a good point
And
with Ghost of Tsushima, because when I played Ghost, I remember thinking, hey, this combat is intricate and tough, but it feels good, and it's like I don't know if there's many games that do this samurai type
Switching
combat
stances
better.
and
It's really, really good. And so
Game
Being
is
a
top
samurai,
of the line.
dude.
That
And
game
so-
is a triple A masterpiece.
and
I agree.
it is top of the line. I think gameplay is king in that, in addition to it nailing it on story
Yeah.
and on
Just
visuals.
everything else.
But
mechanics,
that
so,
being
yeah.
said, Elden Ring, I think you can make the argument that, hey, gameplay is king here. So you guys whining about the visuals, shut up. It's gameplay. Okay, fair. You guys whining
Yeah,
about
sure.
lore and the story, shut up. That's not what it's for. Okay, fair enough. I don't think the game's trying to shove lore in my face, so I can't really criticize it. It's like,
Yeah.
this is what I can only judge on what it's presenting to me. It's presenting to me I'm some kind of spirit in some spirit realm, and I'm going after some kind of ring. I don't know why, and that's fine. All I know is I'm trying not to die too many times as I get stronger.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's the
And
story.
like maybe we're not the big like Dark Souls fans, and we're kind of coming into other people's worlds and going like,
That's
oh,
it.
well, this isn't the way that I want it to
That's
be,
it.
but they're there partying and enjoying exactly the way it is.
That's-
This is exactly the way they want
That
it.
is literally
And, like-
me, because
Yep.
I avoid these games entirely. Almost exclusively avoid these games entirely. Like I played 10 minutes of Sekiro. I got my ass handed to me by like the first, He's not even a real boss. I'm sure he's
like
a guy
an
you see
elite,
many times in the game. And
plant. He's just a plant.
as soon as I died, I was like, well, that's it for me. Uninstall. And like,
who's the boss after Lady Butterfly in that game? That's when I stopped the game.
I don't even know what you're talking about. That's how far I didn't get in that.
I don't even remember, dude.
I got
I remember her.
I got to the first boss period in that game and just go.
She was tough. Lady Butterfly was pretty tough. And then it took me several tries. And then there's a boss after that. I can't remember who it was. I think it's a guy you fight in the field. I can't remember who it is. But I remember like after Death 10, I was like, I'm just not having a lot of fun here. I understand that I could go back and grind and get good as it is. I could train. Do I want to do that? I don't know if I want to do that. So I think I'll play something else that rewards me for all my hard work and doesn't make me feel stupid for not getting it perfectly. I think
that's me though. Like that's me outside the club going, you guys having fun in there? You guys look like having fun in there. Even if I do get inside and I'm like, oh, this club kind of blows or whatever. However I feel about it.
Your music sucks in this club.
Yeah, exactly. If it's something like that, and it's like, well, I probably should have just stayed outside or gone.
But look at that guy. He's dancing hard, man. He's having
God, he's really grooving, you know. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it is, you know. Dan, I think pointed it out best is that there are a whole group of people who just got the game they've been waiting for their entire gaming career. You know what I mean? And like, absolutely. I am not coming in here to be like, you don't deserve that 10. I don't think you should get this. Sure. No, your story's dumb. Where's George R.R. Martin? I'm not gonna be that villain.
Railroad, you know? Martin.
I think, believe it or not, I think everybody's favorite, Alana Pierce, was the only one that was honest with people on Twitter about this game. She was like, "It's just Dark Souls, guys. It's just Dark Souls."
And she's been saying that for a while, I think, too, since like the network test too. She's like, "Guys, it's just Dark Souls," and like I feel like that no one else was doing that. Yeah, even Easy Allies, they're like, "Well, you know, there's some intricacies going." I'm like, guys. You really like this is just Dark Souls, and I feel like you guys even like misled me a little bit here, you know, like
it always looked like Souls to me, to be honest.
And it did to me too, but it's not what's being said. So what I'm seeing and what
I agree with Kyle. I was following the
I
marketing.
wasn't hearing those things then.
I was listening and going, okay, they're telling me things, but what I'm seeing is Dark Souls. You know what I mean? Even the way that it looked, the aesthetic and everything. But the whole thing was really confusing me.
The reviews and stuff as the reviewer starts talking about their experience with Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, and Bloodborne and Sekiro, and it's like, oh, you've played all these. Sounds like you might have beaten all them. I have
gotten good.
Sure.
I've beaten one of those, and that was Bloodborne. The rest of them I tried for a while and gave up. So maybe your opinion is going to be different than mine, possibly. Right. So this is one of those games that is, and we talked about this last year with Game of the Year stuff too. There's certain games that are just going to be very niche. I think this one has successfully bridged into a much broader mass appeal. Yeah. But it's not really leaving its niche market. It's just kind of it's appealed to more people. And then
they have an open door policy to their secret club now.
Much more open. Like, and I think that's great. And I think that's great for the fans of From and fans of the Soul series. Like, you still get what you love. We're not going to change it just to kowtow to these guys who are whining that they want something easier or faster, whatever.
Yeah. Because that's not the game. Like, you
still get what you love, but we're going to open it up, make it more accessible, and allow people to maybe improve in a different way now. And I think that's great. I think that's really, really great. I think this game deserves accolades for being really, truly excellent at what it's trying to do, in my opinion. Sure. I think it's succeeding at what it's trying to do. Anyone who goes into it and says, and is mad that it's not easy enough, that's your own fault for not knowing what this is. Like,
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like these people are making a video game. So like when they start thinking up the ideas of the video game, they're creating this game. It's their vision. It's their game. So if it doesn't click for you, that does suck. And I mean, if people say, hey, like maybe you could add this, that, and the other, and if they're like, okay, yeah, sure, then that's fine, cool. You know. Then they can manipulate the game and add an easy mode or add a this whatever and that whatever. But if they're like, we're not going to do that, I feel like you kind of have to just respectfully be like, okay, it's your game.
Yeah,
you don't go up to an author of a book and go, can you write this different?
Right. Can you not kill that character,
Can you write this book
please?
differently? Yeah. You know, like it's the most asinine argument ever for people to come out of the woodworks and be like, hey, developers, cater to what my accessibility options are. And
you're not going to like this
comparison. Like, the game's not for you. You get to walk off, you know, like it's
not going to like this comparison, Kyle, but and please remember that I like the movie too. But that's what happened with Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
I like the movie, but the internet bitched incessantly, and still to this day bitch incessantly about Last Jedi. That they were like,
Sure.
okay, we have to do something with the script to kind of give people
Yeah.
fist pumping moments, you know, and kind of make it. And I did talk to many people that hated Last Jedi personally, and they turned around and loved Rise of Skywalker because of the changes and stuff that they made. It felt like they listened to people and changed, but you know, they were kind of just completing a like they were just kind of making a Star Wars thing.
But
like
that's the thing. It shouldn't just be then like, oh, well, we're just gonna give you the things that you want because you are like, oh, I don't like change, and it's like
if
you
they
should
got
be
Ryan
writing
Johnson back to do a third movie, I would be like, oh, this is amazing. This is gonna be the best thing ever. I can't wait for everybody to hate themselves.
Probably got the coolest freaking ending ever.
Well, tell the story that you should be
We'll never
telling.
Know.
You know,
we'll never know.
Yeah, tell the story you should be telling. So,
well, and exactly. Again, you don't walk up to artists and go, no, do it this way.
Yeah.
You don't.
So,
you just don't
do it yourself then, right?
What I struggle with
100%.
What I struggle with Elden Ring, and I know people might complain like, well, it's your fault for buying into the marketing. Marketing is always blah blah blah. I get it. I get people saying that. Yeah. That being said, we have been, I think, pretty directly misled as a gaming community that this is gonna be different. I'm telling you, if you're listening to this, this is a Dark Souls game, and if you don't like those games, the chances that you will love this one, it's not impossible. You might, but it's just not likely. Like if you already don't like Dark Souls at all, you don't like the combat in that game. You don't like the aesthetic or whatever. Right. You don't like the bosses. You're not gonna like this game,
baby.
I'll be honest. This might just be another game that I diddle. Just yet another game that I diddle, and then it's somebody else's masterpiece. You know,
it might add the right pieces that were missing for you with Dark Souls, and that's might be the case for me.
Sure,
I'm still on the fence.
Than I've played any other From game.
I'm still on the fence. I'm enjoying elements of it. I'm enjoying the exploration. The combat I still think is, for the most part, quite fun. Not all of it. I think it gets a little overblown with how perfect it is, but it's still quite fun. That being said, I'm on the fence. Like it might end up being a thing where it's like, hey, they added some elements that I like. Some of this is Tim stuff, but it's still Dark Souls at its core. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be enough to see me through, or if
we should
I think it's super overblown how perfect people think it is, but like, the combat of From games. Yes, I agree with you.
I should say we should represent. Derek thinks this is like so far one of his favorite games ever made, if not his favorite game.
If you like Dark Souls, this might be your favorite game of all time.
Yeah, and
Derek, I think, likes the Souls games more than the rest of us. So.
He does.
Yeah, and I like them a lot. You know, I play every single one of them, and again, like I'm just being real about kind of what I'm experiencing, stuff like that. But like he is really enjoying it, and there's nothing non-genuine about it. You know what I mean?
He's obsessed with it.
When he was like, he's giving everybody tips and stuff like that. Hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. He's talking really, quick and fast and accurate about it. And at no point am I rolling my eyes because what he's saying are all very these are all like truthful things that are transpiring with the quality of this game. You'll never hear me, be like, you have Elden Ring that high?
Dude, it's the same thing for me with The Witcher 3. Like when people would bring me like complaints, I don't enjoy it because of this. I'm like, yeah, that's part of the game. That's true. That's in there. That's a bummer. I freaking love this game. I don't care. Like that's how I was with Witcher 3. Everything about that game was nearly perfect.
I think Kyle's the same way.
And I understand the gripes with some of that game, like some of it.
I think it's great,
but I don't really care about the stuff that they didn't like. And it's the same thing with Souls games. Some people will complain about stuff, and Derek's going, none of that stuff matters. Everything about Souls is this, and this is why it's excellent and perfect at what it's trying to do. That's a legitimate take. And so I understand why
we all do this for games.
I understand why someone, whether it's Derek or many others, have said this might be my favorite, not just Souls game, but video game. I think that's awesome, and I think it's right in that right sweet spot for certain people and a lot of people. That's great.
And even Derek admitted, like, okay, journalism does have a bias for From games, like they skew positively.
Some studios get a bias, and I don't know how to explain that, and I'm not here to rectify it or make sense of it or whatever. Some studios have a bias when it comes to reviews, and I don't know why. Sorry, it's just the way that it is. So.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about our continued experiences with Horizon Forbidden West. I have also, Jeff, played up to the point where, without any spoilers, we'll keep it spoiler-free, but there's a part that involves a base.
Yes.
We'll just say that. It involves a base.
Cool.
And I'm also past that point. I actually, once I got past that, and you have a chance to now extend into the rest of the map, the middle part of the map or whatever that is, I actually backtracked and was like, all right, let me do some more of the side stuff that I skipped ahead.
I did too. Yep.
So I did a bunch of that, and so I'm clearing out the north and northeast and then southeast sections of that first area that I had totally skipped so far. And finding some cool stuff and some cool characters. And I'm loving my time with Horizon Forbidden West, while understanding there are some people who maybe just they're not going to like the setting. Maybe they're not going to like the style of gameplay. But I love the balance of action, stealth, and then really good story.
There's one thing you have to find in a very famous city in the West that I haven't gone there yet, but a character that you talk to says, "Oh, you have to find this thing, and it's out in this old city that old folks used to call blah blah blah." Try not to spoil it. I don't know if it's been in the marketing or not because I can't remember.
It hasn't, and I remember they said that to me, and I was like, "Ooh, we're gonna go to a version of that." Ooh,
yeah, exactly. I can't wait.
I showed up, and being there, I was like, "What?"
Yeah. That sounds really cool. I can't wait for that. But yeah, I'm in the same exact spot. I'm like 16 and a half hours in, which I rarely sink this much time into games. If I can beat it in 12 hours, that's like the sweet spot for me. Like I know I can beat this game. Open world games, it tends to go either way. Like Red Dead 2 was probably the longest one I've ever played.
Yeah.
Just because there's so much going on in that game.
It's a long game.
It is. I think I got like 88 hours in that game when I beat it, because I just insisted on doing everything before I beat it. So I'm just loving my time with this game. And there's that part where you talk to a character, you get a base. Think about this. You're like you're 15 plus hours in the game and you just get to a base.
Yeah.
Not only that,
wasn't even aware.
And tells you here's what you're doing the rest of the game.
You finally get the core of like, oh, here's what we need to do in this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Here's what we're trying to accomplish in order to do this thing. At the beginning, it's a little nebulous and it's kind of back and forth, and you're not sure, and you think you have a goal, and then once you achieve that, now you've got this base moment, and then it's like, here's where you're going to be going next. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is...
You have a character telling you, here are 3 things, and here's where to find them on the rest of the map. Good luck and don't die or whatever.
Well, the beginning of the game is like the bridge to, like, I guess what really is the main portion of the game, right? What you guys are talking about. I had no clue there was going to be like a base area, which sounds super cool.
Yeah.
So like that seems like kind of like you're saying, like that's like the main portion. Everything before that was like the bridge to, because it was even like you visited was it Meridian City? You go to Meridian City and there's something
Meridian's the very, very beginning.
Yeah. So like you kind of
most of the game is out west. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going back there, kind of connecting you back to the first game. You're seeing some people from the first game, and then you're traveling because she's very brave and stunning and has to save the world. So she has to travel out west. And
to be fair. To be clear, she still has not yet said, "I am the savior." I know we talked about this.
It was going to say it was a very sexist episode last week.
They haven't talked about the savior thing in a long time in my game.
No, the characters still say that a lot.
Which is great.
The characters still say like, "Oh, this is the savior of Meridian." They still say that a lot.
So far, in the last few hours that I've played the game, she's been referred to as Outlander or Outsider more than anything else, and I'm like, yes, back to the bottom of the barrel.
Back to being the outcast. The tribes they've got in this game are very cool. We already talked a little bit about the Plains tribe, and I won't give too much about them away. I think their outfits aren't what I like. Like I think it looks silly, but it really
it's not practical. It's not practical.
It's not practical at all. But it really fits for their tribe, and I like some of their cultural traditions are really cool that they explain,
like their religion and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep, the things that they honor and how they honor each other after death and all that. It's very, very, very
good
cool.
world building. Yeah.
And I like that a lot. But then I'm also starting to learn, I think in the second area we're going to meet a lot more of them, about this Tanakh tribe, which is like the much more aggressive warrior tribe. And I've already helped a group of them on a submission in the Plains area, the Plainsong area. And I already learned a little bit about some of their traditions when it comes to like, hey, if you are supposed to be a warrior and you get maimed, it's not going to go well for you. Like you're no longer useful to that tribe. And so the little things like that, like, and then now you have to decide like, hey, how do we help this person, this warrior who is now going to probably be, I won't say exactly all the details of the story. It's just very interesting. You have this one tribe that honors their culture in this way, this other tribe that honors this totally very different element of culture in this way. And I just think it's really, they've done a good job. Maybe not perfect. There's elements that are a little bit kind of like eye rolly, like, all right, I know where they're going with this. Most of it's really good though. Like most of the world is really, really good.
The sort of surprise at the end of the what is it, Death's Door mission?
Yeah. There's kind of like a reveal
cool.
there.
Adding a little bit of a extra like kind of element to what's going on from the because there's nothing in the first game that's like that. When you get
there's stuff in the very opening mission as you're going around with your buddy and kind of doing like a tutorial, but also a story intro. There's stuff from that mission, and from Death's Door mission that tie into that base part that kind of explain a little bit about the who's who and what's going on. And it's
I'll be honest, the base part explains
a lot,
so much of what you saw that it's almost like overload. And even Aloy says that. Even Aloy goes, "This is too much."
They make a lot of it optional.
Yeah, remember these are like cave people, so like being like, well, this.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That
Tim was like,
you know, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but like, yeah, they're using all this like modern day, almost sci-fi adjacent language, and it's like these people realistically should know maybe 6 words. And lots of grunts, like.
Well, like in the first game, there's a mission where you go into this facility or whatever, and they explain why people are in the world the way that they are. They were supposed to have advanced knowledge and be like more like how they are like in the 21st century. But then like something had happened where their knowledge only got to like a 5th grade level or like something low, like a low level where it's like they're 18.
It was like all the human history of civilization,
it got
wiped out completely. So they had to start over, hence the primitive nature.
Yeah. So.
I love the lore. I think I love the lore stuff. Actually, I was saying that in the last episode that I think I love the lore more than I like the characters and the story.
Sure.
Now I think I just love the story. Like it's we're at a point in the game where I'm like, no, this story rules. I'm an idiot. So
there's definitely an element. There's definitely an element of hey, the world's ending. I better do something. But also, let me go do this side mission of gathering these berries for someone. There's still an element of that.
Yeah, there is some.
But
of
it's not as ridiculous as some games because they do give you. Like if you do all the optional conversations, which I'm glad they make a lot of it optional, and you can really dig into stuff, you start to discover a little more of the timeline. Like, well, we have this long until this thing happens, and then after that, we'll have this extended time. So they actually explain to you a little bit like, it's pressing, but you got time for some side stuff.
Yeah.
So actually, to connect that to like our first main conversation, because you guys were kind of like, oh, well, Aloy's kind of a wet blanket, and she's always just like, I don't have time for this. And I think that's an issue of just open world games, right? Because like depending on the moment of the game, she's like, I'm in a hurry, dude. Like I don't have time for what you're doing. And then like you go and do a side mission, like Petra. When you meet up with her, and then like you can actually go and have a drink with her, and Aloy's just being totally chill and just talking to her, like doesn't have that demeanor. So it's like that's kind of like the issue with an open world game is like how things weave together is up to the player, right? So you could be doing like 3 missions in a row where she has an attitude because it's like, the world's gonna end, and then you do 2 side quests and she's just like, totally like normal and everything's fine. So
you're right, but also she sucks. You're right. I don't want to gloss over that part. You're right about all that stuff. But like she has such a I don't need anybody's help attitude.
Sign.
Like, and I just like it's so.
And she does the shoulders too. She does a lot of the shoulders.
I don't need your help. You don't know me and my mission.
She grew up living in the mountains with that adopted father.
I know. I get that. There's like a whole backstory. Well, she's an outcast. She's not used to like relying on people and stuff like that. When people are throwing themselves at you in the way that NPCs are to like help, like people will be like, "Hey, I need to give you like bandages to go on your journey," and she'll be like, "I think I'm fine," and they're just trying to give you bandages, you freaking weirdo. Like,
dude, it's funny. Like all of her
actually, like her whole character rubs me so.
All of her allies and supporters have to like trick and lie to her in order to help her. To like, with me. Like
people who are proven to be her friends, like we're. And again, like I get it, like lone wolf, dude. I'm that way. I don't ask for help. I don't want a lot of people helping me. Like I get it and stuff like that. It comes off so stuck up in this game to me. Like,
I wonder if it's softening.
But it doesn't ruin anything. I feel like because I actually really like
that too. Yeah.
I wonder if it's softening because the lead up into this base part we keep talking about, which feels like kind of the end of Act 1. I don't know if it actually is or not. It kind of has that feeling to it as it launches into the middle chunk of the game is what it feels like to me. I do feel like the interaction she has with the character named Zoe. And then her buddy, Varl, is that his name?
Varl, yeah.
Their interaction and her like watching the two of them as they have some moments, obviously. And then I feel like she is still a wet blanket. I get it. She's very kind of like roll her eyes at a lot of things. But I feel like they are softening her a bit, especially as she was dealing with that situation. There were so many times she wanted to be like, you guys are idiots. This is what's really happening. And she could tell she kind of showed restraint and was like, all right, I need your permission to go into this cave to do this thing. It's going to help you.
and kind of words it in a way of like
there are moments where she softened a bit, I thought. So I liked that.
I think I'm at a point in the game
right.
where I mean, I think Kyle's ahead of me. I think, right?
So far in this game,
So where like I feel like I'm at a point in the game where she's kind of turning a corner. Maybe.
Okay.
Not really giving
spoilers. I feel like she's been turning a corner in my game.
So
to be fair, for a bit as well, but it's just
it is weird that first act, go
and which is like 15 hours of content, mind you.
You know who she's really nice to is herself as she's exploring. Going, I just need to jump up to that part right there. I just need to move this block. She's always giving herself a pep talk.
She talks a lot. Yeah.
Like, all right, I'll just put this in my stash. She's always telling herself something,
She's been alone for way too long.
There's one moment too when she's talking to Aaron and she's just like, listen, I don't want people that I care about to die or get killed or get hurt or whatever the wording is. And when you actually, I don't know if you guys remember, in the first game in the very beginning where she's doing that sort of trial to become a certain type of thank you.
And there's deaths involved there.
Literally everybody just like even that chick that's being nice to her, like all of them just get wiped. So it's like maybe in her head she's just like referring to these moments where it's like, oh well, maybe if I'm gonna get too close to people, then they're gonna potentially die, and I don't need that. I can't have that distraction, or maybe
that's hero's guilt. That's hero's guilt.
That's
stuff
I mean, Harry Potter was the same way, and that's what made him annoying too.
So. And it's a hero's guilt trait that like I just don't usually enjoy because at some point when like someone when a group of people are suffocating you to help
Frodo
a normal, not sociopathic person would just go.
Dude, Sam carried.
You know what? Yeah, literally. You want to help? Sure. It's your will too, right?
Dude,
but
it's Frodo, it's Harry Potter, it's Aloy. It's all the same
also,
type
Harry
of
Potter
approach.
was not that way later in the story, and I feel like you should know that. Come on, man.
No, Harry Potter was that way until the very end. You're right. The last book.
Like the last movie / book is him. With Ron and Hermione.
Yeah, but that's after a bunch of people have died.
Building up to it, I feel like it was book 5 and 6. Like those
5 was like
stories. It's him going, I'm just gonna do it, you guys. And like, we're going with you, you idiot. It's also in Lost with Jack, he's always trying to do things alone, and Kate's like,
oh my God,
like half of her lines. I'm going with you.
Go back, Kate.
Anyway, okay. I do want to say I understand her motivations of why they're making her character very resistant and standoffish. But there's still something about the way it's directed to deliver the lines that feels wet blankety, regardless of the motivations.
Sure.
And that still bugs me a little bit. I'm letting it go because the game is so freaking gorgeous and fun to play, and I love the story so much. It's just it's a small gripe that every once in a while it jumps out at me. I'm like, lighten up a little bit, Aloy. Like I still have those moments.
Sure.
But doesn't mean I'm not enjoying it. It's the same thing with Elden Ring. It's like, hey, there's these elements that aren't my favorite that I it's not my preference, but boy, am I enjoying this element of it, So there's a lot about Horizon that I'm absolutely loving. I wanted to touch on 2 other games real quick before we move into some headlines and other stuff. Lost Ark is actually a pretty major release that came out on PC that we haven't talked about. I played about an hour and a half of it or so. One of the evenings this past week, I just pretty much gave that evening to playing that game, maybe 2 hours. It's an MMO. It's a full-on MMO game. So if you've played World of Warcraft and EverQuest and Star Wars: The Old Republic, if you've played these games, that's what this is. It's just from a Diablo style, isometric style viewpoint.
Just pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, and it's very controller friendly. So if you've got a controller on your PC, this tells me it's probably going to come to console. I could be wrong. It might never.
Free to play, right?
It is free to play.
Yeah.
So that would be really just, well, not easy in the sense of physically because obviously you do have to do some work to get it onto the consoles, but that would just be a good transition. Just it's free to play. Here you go. Put it on consoles,
So yeah, if you've got a PC that can play it, or if it comes out to console, I do recommend at least trying it if you like MMOs at all. I mean, they give you what's different about it. With most MMOs, you get like your basic attack and 1 special move, and then you do a bunch of missions with those, and then you add a buff move. Okay, now I've got 3 hotkeys I can use, and then you add a 4th. Like that's usually the pattern of those games. This gives you like 7 moves right out of the gate. So it's a different approach. I don't know if that's my personal preference. I kind of like being eased into it and feeling the progression of unlocking stuff personally. But it is still really cool. It plays well. The combat's pretty fun. So I do recommend it if you like MMOs and want to give that one a try.
Amazon Studios, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So apparently they're just into making MMOs.
That's their
but it's a huge
too, right?
huge success for them. Like even like with New Worlds, like a New Worlds is doing pretty okay. Like
Doing
this
okay.
is like a runaway success for them in terms
this,
of like how
this
many
I think
people are
broke
playing
records with simultaneous users or something.
And
like
it's
that.
weird because this game's been out forever, like in China.
Oh, has it?
China.
Right?
I don't know.
Am I wrong on that? I think it's
China.
been out for a
China.
while.
Might be.
Yeah, I don't know. I maybe fact check me on that, but I thought it was.
Either way, it's easy. People love free to play because it's like, well, I don't have to. They just jump it, and then
and if you have a PC and you can play this, you should play it. It's free.
Sure.
Like, don't be silly. Like
I
would love to check it out. I remember seeing reveals of this at E3 and just being like, I'm gonna play that game.
Yeah.
When I heard it was on Steam, I was like,
I mean,
okay, I guess I'm not.
It's got your classic MMO style. Not like Final Fantasy 14. I know they've done, and even Elder Scrolls has done something special with their stories. Most MMOs don't do something super special with their stories. This is more in that not super special, where it's like, you're special and here's why. You got to find this lost ark because you need to save Arkesia. See how he named that? Oh, yeah.
So it's
like
a little bit James
rolls off
Cameron
the
naming it Unobtainium.
Unobtainium, one of the worst. I mean, that had to be a placeholder that everyone forgot about. Had to be.
Yeah. I will die on the hill of that. Like that was just like
James, we're
we
shooting
forgot to
in like
read.
2 hours. What do you want to call this? You still want to call it Unobtainium?
Giovanni Ribisi, who has to explain it, is like, this is what we're calling it for real? Okay.
What was I watching? I was watching something where it was just like they were making fun of the Avatar like logo because it's literally just like they went into WordPad and just typed the word Avatar and then changed the font to Papyrus or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? That's what you did, James? You just went right in there?
It was a TikTok. I think it was a TikTok.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, still one of the best recent memory SNL sketches, Papyrus with Ryan Gosling. So good.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So
that might have come from that. I don't know.
Yeah. So good. I think he talks about Avatar in that sketch.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it comes
You guys seen Avatar?
The other thing I've played a little bit of, because it just released this week, is the Pixel remaster of Final Fantasy VI. I only played like half an hour, so I didn't like stop everything to go.
Oh, so all of it. That's all of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
this game is a good 40, 50 hours long.
Yeah, it's gonna say it's long.
I mean, nah.
It's like the magnum opus of the Super Nintendo, right?
Yeah, it was. This and Chrono Trigger were kind of like, hey, I hope you have a month ahead of you of just this. This game still very near and dear to my heart. It's one of my favorites of all time. And the Pixel Remaster does look great. They've added a bunch of little tweaks here and there, like in the opening section. There's like even a little mini map that highlights stuff that the previous versions of the game did not. It looks real crisp and real clean. It's still same art style, but it's just cleaner and looks very, very nice.
The music has been rearranged, modern music, so it's not like the kind of whatever you want to call it, the 16-bit,
the old MIDI soundtrack.
Thank you. It's actual like new renditions, like orchestral, I believe.
I've heard non-Square folks. See you, Kyle. I've heard non-Square folks do renditions of it, like orchestral renditions of this music, and it's very pretty. But this is now officially,
yeah.
And it's so pretty. Like the opening theme song, it's called Terra's Theme, one of my favorite video game pieces of music. It's so good. And right in that opening, when the three mechs are kind of walking in the snow, again, very pixelated, old school, but it's just so pretty. It's so epic,
I don't know if you've seen Tim. Some people are furious that the opening scene there is missing the credits.
Yeah,
because in the original, it has the credits as they're walking through the snowfield on the Magitech armor.
And it's like we discussed, people are the dumbest. Okay, people are the worst, and that's nothing to get mad about.
So what I'm actually gonna, I don't know when, but I'm gonna do. So I downloaded a screen recording application on my PC. So I'm actually gonna do like a Let's Play type of thing
for Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, I haven't played 6 honestly in like over 15 years.
Yeah. Okay.
So I want to kind of like maybe just record like a little bit. I'll be like, hey, this is like the last Super Nintendo Final Fantasy, and I would check it out. So
I would tune into that. I'd watch that. Yeah. This is the game I've probably, outside of really short games, this is the game I've probably beaten the most. Everyone talks about games they've replayed. I don't do that a whole lot these days, but over the years, I've probably beaten this, and for me, it's a lot. Probably 7 or 8, maybe 9 times. That's a lot for me.
It was easy back in the day to do that. There wasn't as many games, and we were kids. We weren't buying we didn't have jobs buying our own games, So you would play.
I probably did 3 or 4 on the Super Nintendo back in the day. I'd finish it and then start again right away.
Oh yeah.
And then when it came out on the Game Boy Advance, I played it a handful of times because that GBA version was also quite good. So, and then I've gone back since then to play it on various platforms that it's come out. Virtual Console, I think I did one on a ROM, and I remember on a ROM kick, I was like, "Ooh, this feels sneaky and illegal," and it's actually whatever. Anyway,
that's actually how I experienced it, and I will admit I've never actually finished it, just because, well, yeah, again, I mostly played it by those means. I never actually physically owned the game. And just
talking about story for a game as old as it is, this game came out, I think 94, 95, somewhere in that range.
It's definitely around there, yeah.
And it has no business being as interesting of a story with this wide cast of characters that are all. I mean, the translation back then leaves some to be desired. So I think this Pixel remaster improves some of that too.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that to
94.
say, they have this huge cast of characters that there's not like one central character. You've got a whole bunch of characters that are all important to the story, and the story is interesting. And there's even this moment where you feel like this is the end of the game. It turns out that's just kind of the end of Act 2, basically, and then Act 3, the whole world is now changed, and you have to regather your team to go for that final push. It's very well done.
And really, you can actually miss some of them, right? There are characters that you can miss.
There's optional. There's some that are now. There's the new ones after that moment too. It's really good.
I always liked that. You know, older games did that kind of often. It was like with this Suikoden games.
Suikoden, yeah.
And then what was it? Like Chrono Cross. You basically go through and there was like a bunch of characters and you could totally miss them. They don't really do that too often anymore with like RPGs. Like
usually it's part of the story and they'll join you and that's just what happens. But yeah.
Yeah.
So I love it. Love this game. It's still one of the best.
Look forward to our Let's Play.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you do that, let me know because I do want to watch that.
Yeah, it'll be short because it's just going to be kind of like an introduction thing. Like, hey, if you've never seen it and you're curious, this is what the game is, and yeah.
Yeah. At the beginning, they do make you very overpowered with your mechs. You can just kill everything with one shot, and you're like, oh, is this what this game is? That's just the intro. Like,
right.
The game will start in earnest in about an hour or so into the game.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Reno 911 is one of the things on our list of watching, and I also have another silly
Defunded.
comedy I want to talk about too. I've been watching some It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but I want to hear first about Reno 911 Defunded, which is a hilarious title.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's a great title for the return season.
But
yeah, Reno 911 I've watched through maybe 3 times as a series. Like, and this is back when it ended on like season 6 or 7. And there was like no future in sight, and then they came back for so the history is they came back for Quibi. Remember Quibi?
Oh yeah,
that was around for a whole Quibi. That was around for like 15 minutes, and then it left. So they came back for a season on that. It was like 20 episodes that were 10 minutes long, and the Roku picked up all of the Quibi shows basically. So Roku commissioned a new season of Reno 911. And this is a 11 episode season, and they're full episodes. And I think calling it Defunded is one of the funniest ways to address, like, I guess there's an elephant in the room, societally speaking, I guess, socially speaking, whatever. So I think this is kind of forced them to be the funniest that they've ever been, because there's a lot of like fundraising bits because they they don't have any money now, or
they're like a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, or like the exterior of the police station is all graffitied and stuff.
Oh my god!
Same cast.
Same cast, yeah. I think Niecy Nash might. I don't think I've seen her. I think there's a stand-in for her. But everybody else is like there, including the new people that they brought in for like season 6. But I mean, these guys are just the masters at improv. Like, especially Tom Lennon. Carrie Kenny Silver, who plays Trudy, she is just hilarious. And as Tom Lennon calls her, what's his character, Dangle? As Dangle calls her, functionally retarded. He just calls her that like all the time. Well, we do know that she's like functionally retarded. We do know that. But they just
dropping that R word,
they're so freaking funny. There's one episode I just finished. I have like one episode left. By the way, the Roku channel is free. You just need to log in, just watch it. I'm watching it in browser too, so I don't see any ads.
Nice.
Because my ad blockers. So there's an episode I just finished where Cedric Yarbrough's character, Jones, is it Jones or something?
I can't remember the names.
Yeah, I only remember Dangle and Trudy.
I remember Dangle, yeah.
It's a
great name.
It's Jones.
It is.
Anyway, but he's like the only black police officer, and it's Juneteenth. So he's putting on like this like all day long play of him playing different black American icons and he's forcing all of his coworkers to sit through it, and it's It's so funny because his character knows nothing about those historical figures.
Sure.
Like he's like, I'm Frederick Douglass, and if you want to come to the South, you can, or whatever. And then he starts singing a sexual song, like. So it's basically him playing famous black people and then going into an R&B song, and it's so freaking funny. It's just they talk about being canceled.
That irreverent humor, right?
Yeah, they talk about being canceled. They kept calling it cancer culture. Yeah, because if you say something wrong, the internet gives you cancer.
It might as well be called that.
Cancer culture.
Might as well.
Oh my gosh. Well, listen. Speaking of people getting canceled, I don't know how It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia hasn't been removed from any platforms that it's on.
No kidding.
That show, I'm in season 3 now. This first 2 seasons aren't too long. But dude, that show, every episode is like, can they say that? Can they do that? I don't think you can say or do that.
13 seasons in, like,
dude, it's we talked about this a little 15, bit too in the 15? Chat where it actually has elements of Seinfeld. Not that Seinfeld ever got this offensive, but it's your central characters as a group of friends, and they sometimes are in storylines together, sometimes they're separate, whatever. And every time they are incredibly self-centered and selfish. That's what makes it so funny. And things rarely work out well for them. They always they should learn a lesson, but they never do.
No.
And that's kind of what makes it funny, is these people that are just living these tragically inappropriate lives, and it's all just funny. And so I think that's probably part of why they can get away with it, is that it's like, we're not pretending any of this is good even at all. It's all ridiculous. They're idiots. They're selfish. They're bad people. And let's watch them be idiots together. And everyone's like, yay, let's watch them. And so, dude, it's so funny. Everything they address everything from racism to words you shouldn't use to sexuality and gender and jihad and all. I mean, everything, man. Like, so much stuff.
Have you gotten to the episode where, I can't remember what season it's in, where they set out to remake Lethal Weapon?
Oh God.
You haven't gotten to that yet?
I have not seen that, but I've seen one that's.
Because they have to revisit that later because there's like blackface or something. So they have to revisit it later. Yeah.
I've seen one that has elements of Die Hard in it, when that creepy inbred family takes over, like takes them hostage.
Yeah.
And then Danny DeVito's crawling through the vents, very Die Hard style, you know. Dude, it's so funny.
And so stupid.
At the very beginning, out of nowhere, for no reason, they warn each other, now that they're hostage, like, watch out for Stockholm syndrome. And then, like, within an hour, what's her name? Dee. She becomes immediately she's like immediately enamored with her hostage takers. She like loves them all of a sudden. it's like, why? Nothing happened.
Because that's a thing that happens, right? Sometimes
so it's all very ridiculous.
She's just horrible and vain and wants the attention, basically. Yes. Yeah, she's just awful. Yes. Damn, that show is so freaking funny. I don't. Did you get to the Charlie with the cat mittens or whatever? No, we haven't gotten that one yet. Because there's a commercial. That was like the first time I'd ever seen anything in Always Sunny. And this is like, I guess season 4 or 5, I don't know. Where he shoots a commercial of him with cats that have like mittens, and he's trying to sell them to people. And it's just one of the funniest fake commercials I've ever seen in my life, that it made me watch the show.
Dude, he is absolutely, like, his character, Charlie's character, is so bad at reading and writing. And they rarely address it directly. It's just little moments where he's trying to read, and it's basic words like the word me, and he gets stuck on it. And then like Mac will grab it and read it and be like, really? And then he'll keep reading it. It's really funny.
But they make him, the funniest bits are like when they make him a genius at something else.
Yes.
Like he's a savant in other areas, like a Good Will Hunting or something. Yeah. It's so great. Oh, man.
It's a very, very funny show. I highly recommend it.
I highly recommend the podcast that accompanies it, because they are doing a rewatch podcast, kind of like The Office does. Yeah. And they just transitioned to shooting all that in video, so you can see them talking to each other. And it's mostly that they barely talk about the episodes. It's mostly them just making jokes at each other's expense. It's so funny. Yeah. And they did I think they're in season 2 or 3 now. They're still very early on. They just started this podcast.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. One of the unsung heroes, because I think Charlie Day, his star kind of rose pretty rapidly out of this, and of course Rob McElhenney as well. Glenn Howerton, I think, kind of got overlooked for whatever reason. Not completely. Obviously, he's very well known, and he had his own show where he was a teacher. I watched a little bit of that.
Bio. Yeah.
That's actually pretty funny. I don't know if it's going anywhere.
Yeah, it had some funny moments. Yeah.
But in this show, he is just so reprehensible. Like they all are in their own ways, but they all have lovability. He has very, very little lovability, and yet he's so funny, dude. Like he's got some of the best lines.
He's one of the schemers that comes up with the things that a worst person in the world would think of to do to somebody.
And he's so conceited. Like he's so full of himself, but it kills me every time, man. He's hilarious. He's really, really funny.
In this latest season that came out this year, it touches on COVID.
Of course.
And he has a scene where
Jesus. Can't even keep
he
it
has
together.
a scene where everybody thinks he has COVID because he's not vaccinated or whatever the reason is. They think he has COVID, and he's trying to convince them that he's not. So he's trying not to cough when he's in a meeting with somebody, and he is in so much pain. It's so freaking funny. It's like one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen in my life. Oh my god, dude.
He is hilarious. He is so funny. So anyway, it's been a fun kind of step back because it's still in the box format, the 4x3 of season 3, and so it's still definitely a dated, feels dated, but the humor still rings through.
Where is this? Hulu? It's on Hulu, right? Because it's
all on Hulu. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And I think around the early seasons were like, I have to go back and rewatch them. I probably would love them now, but I remember the early seasons being like them shouting over each other, and it's because they didn't have any writers. It was just them.
Really?
And then like in season 3 or 4, that's when they started hiring writers, and you can feel the structure.
It's not too bad. I remember you saying that, and it's there, but it's not too bad. And you can kind of tell that they've written some stuff loosely, but also allow them just to interact like they would around this situation. So it's not too bad. There is a lot.
I do want to go back and rewatch it because I remember rewatching Seinfeld because I'd never seen it all the way through before, and it was just a joy having something to watch that was just a comedy, and it was dumb, and it was my language basically, and my type of people that hate other people.
There's a whole episode they have to do community service, and so that they have to go coach these youth basketball teams. That's just so funny.
I swear, Seinfeld / Curb, because I kind of lumped them together. It's Always Sunny are just like exactly my language. Like
they have a shared core of watch this selfish character do and say horrible things and let's laugh at them together. It's not in no way is it you should model your life after this.
It's the right kind of cynicism for me. If it was too cynical and like dreary, I'd be like, I'm out on this. I can't do this. But it's god dang it, it's so freaking funny watching these people be terrible. Like
I feel like the spirit of those shows, of those 3 shows, are very similar. I agree with that.
Absolutely.
And then Dan, you were watching a couple of movies. I want to hear about those before we wrap up with headlines.
Just real quick, because I know Jeff had mentioned, or you guys had mentioned watching Free Guy. That movie is actually really good.
It's really entertaining.
It does not have. I mean, it is way more endearing than that movie even deserves to be. By the end of it, you're like, wow. Like my wife, because I had watched it while I was working, and I thought it was just gonna be kind of just dumb fun. I was like, oh, this actually has like a lot of heart, especially towards the end. So, and then I told my wife, and she's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we can watch it at some point. I was like, no, let's watch it again because I actually really liked it. So we watched it last night, and she's like, yeah, that was actually really cute. I was not expecting that at all.
Right, because it pulls the right elements from stuff. We talked about this last summer. Right elements of like Truman Show and Wreck-It Ralph and some of these other movies without
Deadpool,
being just
kind of
dumb.
Because it's meta.
Yeah, but I loved that. Like to me, the elements that kind of hit home, like wow, that was surprisingly thoughtful in that moment, was very Truman Show-esque at its core. And I like that.
Yeah, I think anybody who's just like, oh, a movie about they're in a video game, that's dumb. Look, that guy's teabag. Like it's more than that. God. It's much more than that. Although there is a scene where somebody does get teabagged.
And it's the funniest. Oh my god, dude!
It's funny.
One of my favorite scenes of last year involves a character, an actor that shall not be named, that appears in the movie, and he just has one of the funniest scenes of last year.
Dude, the mom in that scene where I forget what the kid's saying, but he says something about like, for the love of God. She's like, you're 22 and still living in my house. There is no God. It's like, oh my god. Like,
it's funny stuff. I also like the random guy who like can't put his hands down because he's always being held up.
That doesn't feel
he's like, I can't do it.
Doesn't feel
I thought that was a reference to like the T pose that a lot of game glitches have.
yeah, where their hands are out like this.
I thought it had to do with him always being like characters always pointing their guns at him, and he just.
Well,
always
that's what he
has to
says. Yeah.
No, that's what he says, but I thought it was like
Who knows?
as far as the gaming industry, it was like a reference to like glitches.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Glitch out. Yeah, that's really entertaining.
Yeah, I bought it. I bought it on sale over Christmas too because it was really cheap on Voodoo's sales, and so I bought that.
It should be on, if not now, it should be on Disney Plus.
It's on Disney Plus and HBO Max.
Oh, is it on there now? Nice.
Yeah.
HBO Max and Disney Plus.
Nice.
And then Nobody was like that was actually really fun. I really
Man.
Odenkirk is such a bad doesn't
he do badass, yeah.
Doesn't he kind of give you like older like Bourne kind of vibe like a little bit?
In that
like
movie.
just like yeah, right. I would just say like it's because he's like kind of has this retired vibe, but then he just clearly has that high level of skill and it's just not what that movie ended up being. I was not expecting that. I thought it was going to be like normal guy.
It was geriatric John Wick.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was.
But I thought it was gonna be like normal guy, and then like he just like can suddenly like he's just like a bad like no, there's like more to it. And
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the John Wick stunt team or somebody having to do with John Wick. I think it was the writer. The writer of the John Wick movies wrote Nobody. Okay. And it shows like some of the same people had to have been involved in some of the stunts because some of those kills were like, "Ooh,
dude, the shield one at the very end, like the shield one, that was so cool.
Yeah, at the very end, especially, there's a ton of back-to-back kills that you're like, "Ooh, that's creative. Dude, that's really dude,
freaking Doc Brown in the movie.
Yeah,
like, are you kidding me?
Doc Brown and RZA, like what?
Like, I was not expecting. That was so cool.
Yeah, mind.
That was a really fun movie. I would definitely recommend if you're into that sort of thing, watch those. Or watch that. And then The Foreigner, I had wanted to watch for a while. Jackie Chan. I haven't seen Jackie Chan be in a movie in freaking years. And then Foreigner came out, and I just forgot to watch it. That's actually a pretty solid movie too. I think it's probably it's probably his best acting he's ever done, to be honest.
Yeah, my understanding is it's more of a, I don't know, emotional heavy lifting for him in that movie.
Yeah, because like right in the very beginning, the crux of the whole thing is something devastating happens to a certain person that is connected to him, and it's just like. Yeah, it's just the emotions are high. There's a lot of like stuff pertaining to bombings.
Oh yes,
and like terror, like
I'm remembering the trailer for this now because whenever I go to the theater, which is often.
I never saw this one. I need to watch
play
this.
all the time.
But it's actually similar to Nobody. Like you think he's just a normal guy, and then as the movie goes on, you start unraveling things, and it's like, oh, okay.
And he's not a nobody. Yeah,
he's not just like quite a nobody. So.
And that's Pierce Brosnan is the villain in that, right?
Well, I mean, he's part of like.
Isn't he the antagonist?
I mean, like he's involved with the stuff, and it's not quite straightforward as like he's the bad guy. I mean,
it's complex.
Without saying,
cool.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely involved in there, just without saying.
For some reason, when I saw The Foreigner on this list, I was picturing a Liam Neeson movie. It feels like a title of one of his many.
Like The Commuter or something. You're like, what?
Does anyone call The Imposter? I feel like he's got one that's like this. But
I swear to God, he does. I know he has a Commuter, which is like that's as Liam Neeson as it gets. The title.
The thing is, though, I love Liam Neeson, even when he's like that over and over again. Yeah. Even though his movies. They're not that different from like Steven Seagal style movies. Like this guy's forced into action, but Steven Seagal just sucks. And so like I love
Whereas Liam Neeson was Oscar Schindler, so I mean there's weight there.
He's a Qui-Gon Jinn. He can do whatever he wants.
Well, Jackie Chan is pretty great in this. I've loved Jackie Chan for years, all of his older movies. It's just it's a bummer that he just kind of stopped making movies, or at least like for here in the U.S. Yeah, I think
I think he still makes movies in China. I don't know. Yeah, I think he's still active, but I wanted to shout out Jackie Chan as well because like there was a clip that was viral of Brett, whatever that guy who's like a horrible person who directed Rush Hour.
Oh, Brett Ratner.
Yes, yeah. He was like on the phone with somebody, and Jackie Chan was just like, oh, he's on the phone. Okay, so Jackie is a director. He's directed China like movies when he was in China and the China market and stuff. Yeah. So he was like just controlling the room, like here's what the action scene's gonna be, camera's gonna be right here. He was just all over it, and I was like, who directed this movie? Like it's just, I think it was the first Rush Hour.
Okay.
There was a clip from, and I was like, yeah, man, freaking
Jackie Chan
is just a man, dude.
I love Jackie. I know he's not as like
his older. I highly recommend his older martial arts Chinese movies.
Yeah,
like
man,
Who Am I was just amazing.
Yeah. What's
Didn't
the
he
one
do
where
the drunken one, the Legend of the Drunken
Legend,
Knight?
yeah, Legend
well,
Drunken
there's
Knight.
like
a
the
series
original
of
one.
them, yeah.
There's like an original one, and then there was one that it's like almost like a remake, I think, or maybe it's a sequel.
For American audiences, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the one where like they end up in the desert. That one's really fun. I really like that one.
I can't remember that one.
Where
Who Am I? I think Who Am I is the one where he slides all the way down the tower.
Yeah, and he's like,
It's
"Who
like
am
this,
I?"
Like slanted, and he's like just.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He legit did it for real. Like,
Oh,
Did I was always a sucker for his buddy cop movies, whether it's Shanghai Noon or all the Rush Hours. I liked all the Rush Hours.
Yeah.
Like I like those kind of movies.
I agree.
Yeah, that dude would do his own stunts, and then like when at the end, instead of like a blooper reel, it would be like a stunt reel. And like, there's the one where he has
it's like a Jackass reel, basically,
like the bloody sock, or he has a sock that looks like a shoe because he broke his freaking leg, but he was still doing the move. He's like, I gotta finish the movie.
I remember that. Yeah,
like the dude was insane. Like he's such a badass,
dude. Action icon. Easily.
Absolutely.
Nobody like him.
No.
Well, let's. I do have to wrap things up a little bit earlier. I know it's almost 1:45 into the show anyway, but so why don't we just, if there's a specific headline that you want to highlight, and I'll highlight one to start so you guys have time to look over, and you guys added most of these anyway, I think. But I'll just highlight one that I thought that kind of jumped out to me, and it's one of the ones that's highlighted, but I'm also very interested in what this is going to be, and that's the PlayStation competitor to Game Pass that we've talked about. There's been rumors about this for a while. This Project Spartacus, rumors in terms of like what the details are going to be. But now it's starting to seem that this is going to be coming sooner rather than later, like maybe an announcement and launch coming pretty soon. And I think that's pretty exciting. And they are talking about classic games being a major part of it, which is huge. I think that needs to be the case.
It's a must.
Because their PS1, 2, 3, 4 catalogs are all just so rife with amazing games and masterpieces. And so I'd love the idea of, hey, part of the subscription not only gets you access to blank new games, look at this old library you get access to as well.
Especially the PS3 games, because that's sort of like a lot of those are locked away on the PS3. It has to be 1, 2, and 3, and that's the major selling point that like we've discussed in the past. Otherwise, it's like, okay, well,
I'm sure we're going to cherry pick some titles. This is speculation, obviously. Cherry pick some titles starting out, much like Nintendo's doing with their online whatever, and then just kind of, I don't know, hopefully branch out.
Yeah,
we'll see. It does sound like they're still going for tiers. That the rumor, of course, includes more details on the potential tiers of pay a little more, get a little more. But we'll see. We'll see if that ends up being the case. I still think they should go with a one price gets everything. Forget about tiers, but that's fine. I'm sure they've done plenty of market testing on this to figure it out. I don't like I'm even annoyed with Nintendo having their expansion pass plus version of their thing. I'm like,
right.
I agree.
Can you just raise the price and make it part of
it's already $5 just for NES and like SNES games. Like, just make me pay $10 as a steal. Are you kidding?
No. It's just annoying. I know that you would actually make the argument like that's actually customer friendly, giving you the choice. Like, yeah, but it's confusing. It's like give me the.
It's going to confuse one thing. Yeah, confuse some people for sure.
So we'll see how that goes. What jumps out to you guys, headlines wise?
Well, I wanted to throw out there that the 3 tiers are for the PlayStation Game Pass, or whatever it's going to end up being called. It's like tier 1 is what the PS Online is right now, whatever that is. We all
PlayStation Plus.
PS Plus. Tier 2 is PS Now, and then tier 3 is like what EA Play does, where it's going to allegedly be demos of games, of new releases, and the classic games, and cloud streaming, and that's only the 3rd tier. So like that's going to be like 16 or something a month, allegedly. Again, I think that's right. Yeah, because 10 is going to be the lowest, 13 for PS Now, and then 16 for like the EA Play type thing. I just wanted to shout that out. I don't really have anything other than Fallout New Vegas 2 possibly being in the works by Obsidian at Microsoft.
Ooh.
I think that's awesome, if that's true.
In addition to, they're also working on their brand new IP, right? Their big RPG.
Well, they're definitely doing Outer Worlds 2. We know that.
I forget what is it. Awoken?
Avowed?
I forgot about that.
Avowed,
I forgot about
yes.
that one.
Avowed, yes.
Avowed.
And they did announce like last year, right? Outer Worlds 2. Was it last year at Microsoft show?
Oh, yeah.
So they're working. This sounds like early talks based on the rumor. It's like
I wonder if the rumor also could end up being they're just doing a remaster of New Vegas.
God,
but who knows?
Or they'll just kind of like they'll oversee like whatever dev making it. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with the Metroid Prime thing, where it's like, ooh, they're gonna put the trilogy out soon. It turns out like the rumors that are really starting to come to the surface are no, they're remaking the first one, and they're gonna see how that one does. Like that's what it sounds like they're doing. But anyway, we'll see.
And the last thing I wanted to mention is COD being delayed to 2024.
Yeah.
So there was a game scheduled for 2023. That's been delayed because Vanguard did not do well.
Sure.
And not do well by Square standards, who has impossible standards.
Well, that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna say
the genuinely didn't do well because Vanguard did not sell as well as.
That's a big deal, man. This is gonna be our first year without Call of Duty for the fall.
Yeah, they're still gonna do the Modern Warfare 2, I think, for this year or something. But then after that, it's a break, and then whatever is after.
That'll be the first time since what year was it? 2008 or something. That we've had one every year.
Sounds right.
It's literally, I think, since the first Modern Warfare, I think. Or maybe it was World at War, because World at War was after, I believe, after that first Modern Warfare. I don't know if it was a gap in between there.
Somewhere in that range, they started. They had multiple studios that were then working.
I thought it was a gap, and then the remake of Modern Warfare, or not remake, but like a Modern Warfare reboot or something.
That was a couple of years ago, but.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah. But it's been continuous, like since like the 360 PS3, right?
Yeah.
Yep. That's a big deal.
So let's do a good news, bad news. Do you guys want the good news first or the bad news first?
Let's start with the bad news.
Let's do bad news first, just like we did with Elden Ring, all the bad stuff and then the good stuff.
Horizon too.
Square Enix is apparently racist against their non-Japanese developers, because they literally every like what was it, the Hitman, what was it, Deus Ex? There's been Tomb Raider. There's been a history there of them saying that they've been disappointed with the sales of some of these games. So Square Enix claims to be disappointed with the sales of Guardians of the Galaxy, stating it undershot expectations when it with its slow start. Maybe because when you demoed the game at first, it didn't seem that interesting and funny. Maybe that was the problem. Because then afterwards,
they chose
it was like,
poorly.
Yeah. So that's
it's because you released an absolutely garbage Marvel game before this one, and everyone assumed
and continue to release stuff for it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I fell victim to that where I was just like, "This is going to be not great," and even as others were like, "Hey, this is looking pretty good," I'm like,
I wasn't letting it deter me because even though Avengers was not what I wanted, at the end of the day, I still had fun with it. So I was still like, "Yeah, I'm still excited for Guardians, man," and I was met with resistance everywhere I went because I understood it though. Sure, they had a point about Avengers. So
I loved being totally wrong on that. I loved being wrong because that was so much fun.
It was.
Wasn't that our game of the? Was that our?
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Podcast game of the year from last year.
So speaking of good vibes and the good news, Square Enix is considering creating HD 2D remakes of more Super Nintendo games.
Yeah, man.
Developers working on Triangle Strategy confirmed that Square Enix president Yosuke Matsuda wants the studio to use the art style to remake Super Nintendo games. I guess they basically had created a list and included several games from the Super Famicom, one of which was the Live Alive game. So that's the one that's going to be coming out.
Oh, nice.
It was on July, I think.
Yeah, they mentioned, I guess, ActRays are on that list, but then they did recently, they did do that. So obviously not with the 2D HD aesthetic for that. But dude, please just keep making more of this style because it's really cool and I like it.
Oh, and Street Fighter 6 was announced, but there's not really much to say about it.
Dude, can I just...
You were so pumped, though, weren't you?
Do it, Dan. Close us out with your Capcom rant. I want to hear it.
For the love of fucking God, stop doing this shit. Just do the Fallout 4 thing. Just come out of nowhere and be like, hey, here's the game. Here's a bunch of gameplay. Yeah. And guess what? It's coming out in less than 6 months. Yeah. Don't have a 7...
Yeah, the Street Fighter 6 was a whole bunch of nothing. It was a really short cinematic, and then they said we're going to have more information in the summer.
Well, and so I honestly thought it was maybe a gay wedding. I wasn't sure what was happening.
So it was. Those were definitely in-game assets. You can tell that was actually not like just CG or whatever. It was actually it was definitely so they look good. But my issue is the 7-day
fight on the street.
But my 7-day countdown leading up to a 40 second teaser. Why? Like, I don't understand.
Most people guessed correctly by the time.
Yeah.
By the day of, like.
Just drop it's 40 seconds.
Was it
dude.
40 seconds long?
Yeah.
It didn't even feel that long.
It was between 35 to 40 seconds. Like, But like my issue is the
Dude, it was
7-day
basically
countdown,
like in the UFC when they have the guys do the weigh-ins and stare each other down. Like pretty much what the trailer was, but it was two separate characters.
It's like just don't.
Like, why are we doing this?
Don't do a countdown to something, especially that short. If you're gonna do a countdown, it's got to be freaking huge.
Yeah,
huge.
You know, after that travesty, maybe Sony will buy them. And be like, we got to fix this. We got to fix this.
No countdowns. No countdowns.
Yeah, no more countdowns. Oh
Absolutely.
man. All right. Well, there's a few other headlines, but nothing probably worth covering too deeply right now. And I do also have to hop off. But listen, I appreciate you guys being flexible on recording time. I really do appreciate it. And those of you who are listening, I mean, I probably sounded like we were all pretty down on Elden Ring. We are not. Those of us who are talking, especially the three of us still in the call, Jeff, Dan, and I, we aren't necessarily huge Dark Souls fans, although we've enjoyed some FromSoft games. Dan, you liked Sekiro. I enjoyed Bloodborne. I think you like Bloodborne too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never touched it myself. It sounds like I should.
I beat most of them except for like Dark Souls 2. So
take that into account. We're not necessarily like incredibly huge FromSoft fans that can do no wrong, but I still think we were giving it some pretty good praise. Like this is a good game.
Tim, we were being balanced because that's how it should be. Like you do pros and cons. You're like, this is what it does well. This is what it doesn't do well. Like you just,
Same thing with Horizon. I mean, Horizon is as of right now, it is not even close. That's my favorite game of 2022. Here we are 2 months in. It's not even close. That's exactly the kind of game that I want. It's hitting all the right notes, and I complained about a whole bunch of I'm having all kinds of weird. I'm having weird janky stuff with the climbing. Like the climbing and traversal in Horizon has let me down a lot of times, I'm still like, I love this game. Like
absolutely,
it doesn't
like glitchy stuff or
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where you're like, okay, you should be reaching. That's clearly within range. Why aren't you jumping?
I've also climbed.
She's just derpy sometimes.
To the top of a cliff sometimes, and I've clipped down through like halfway now, like waist deep in rock.
Okay.
Like I've had a lot of those types of issues.
Yeah.
And I say a lot. I mean a lot. Like 5 or 6 times.
Oh wow.
2 of them I remember 2 times I had to reload the last save because I got stuck. But it wasn't like I was like, you know what? I'm going back to a game I like. Like I don't care. Like It's just like Witcher 3. If you do everything so well and you make a world that I can't wait to get into again, then I'm going to let a lot of your glitchy, janky stuff go. Like Witcher 3 had jankiness to the nines, especially in the early days of that game. I didn't care. I loved it so much, man. It was and this is the same way. There's glitchiness here and there with certain elements. I called my my charger, to go to ride it. And it showed up and the only thing that was there was the lights of it floating.
Yeah,
it's just sitting there floating. It was very like Assassin's Creed
open world games, man. I swear,
it was just and I looked at it, and I actually said out loud, I was like, "What?" And then all of a sudden, the rest of it loaded. Loaded back in, and I was like, "Okay, all right, hey there, can I get on you? Are you okay? Like, what's going?"
Dude, that happened with me actually with Torrent in Elden Ring. I summoned it. And it wasn't there, but I climbed on it, and then like my character started like free falling like in the same spot. And then I died. And then I died.
It was ACG talked about how he summoned it, or it might have been somebody else. They summoned it and like they're just like floating in midair.
Yeah. Well, I was having a really epic horseback battle with another guy on horseback in Elden Ring, and we're kind of circling each other, swinging our swords. And then we both kept hitting the same rock that really wasn't that high off the ground. It was on this field, and it was just a little bit jutted up a little bit. And we both got stuck in a dumb way, and our horses think they're running full speed, and we're not moving at all. We're both swinging and missing each other. I was like, this looks so stupid. Like, it was such an epic battle, and all of a sudden we're both like, from 10 feet away. It was really.
I dare you to come up here and say that to my face.
As soon as my horse figures out how to step up 6 inches, you're dead.
You're in for it, buddy.
It's
like the Monty Python Holy Grail thing where the guy's at the top of the tower and they're just talking crap to each other. Yeah.
I did tell him his mother was a hamster. I did tell him that. Anyway, all that to say, both of these games have their pros and cons. I think if you liked the first Horizon, or if you like the newer Assassin's Creed games, I think Horizon is gonna check all the boxes. And if you like all the FromSoft stuff, if you already love Dark Souls, Elden Ring might be a perfect game in your mind.
Yeah, I think it's going to be their masterpiece for people that already like those games. Yeah.
So 2 amazing.
I mean, it clearly is in the critical.
2 amazing games have been released over the last 8 days.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty close.
That's insane. I mean,
it's so dumb. It is so dumb. Yeah. I'm so mad.
So there's a lot to be excited about. We were just here to talk about the pros and cons and dig into the nerdiness of it. And
for sure.
So Anyway, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Derek and Kyle, hopefully next time we'll get you on for the entire show. I do appreciate Kyle, though. Kyle took time out of an already scheduled night to talk with us. So that's
what a
awesome.
nice man.
Appreciate it.
What a nice young man.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thank you guys for being here. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.
Godspeed, Elden Ring.